Good evening, welcome to the club. It's brought to you by the Pitch Sport Football Fan app, giving the fans a voice. Get your free download on the App Store and Google Play Store. It's Ray, your host tonight, and with me I've got Phil. How are you doing, Phil?
Ciao.
Ciao.
Buonanotte.
We've also got Keith. How are you doing, Keith?
I'm all good, Dicko. My little opening line was robbed there by Phil, but however.
You first. Gav, how's it going?
Great.
Excellent. On some exotic cans tonight, I believe.
I'm the Pratsky, Dicko, you know yourself. Needs must. Yeah, well, you laugh, but it's a brilliant premium lager from the Czech Republic. So, and it's brewed to a Czech tradition. I don't know what the Czech tradition is, but I'm willing to go with it.
Okay, fair enough. And Gar, how are you doing, Gar?
Great, mate. How are you? I'm on the Saskia mineral water from Germany.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, very exotic. I'm racing through 24 beers, which I discovered at the weekend have an expiry date of the 31st of March. So I'm on a race against time on those. Right, this evening we're not going to talk LFC. If you want to listen to any LFC talk, then you're going to have to wait for Gav's next podcast, whenever that is. Gav, when are you next on?
About 11 o'clock, Dicko.
Oh.
I'm only messing. I don't know when it'll be.
Later this week, potentially.
Yeah.
And we can all talk of the dreaded COVID-19. And tonight we will concentrate on Phil's very disappointed. He's got all the stats ready. You'll have to leave it, Phil, because we are tonight going to talk about the tournament. He's walked off already.
Yes!
It is a podcast special, and we are going to talk about Italia 90. And, well, look, lads, for me, I mean, I might bring a slightly different slant on this. Italia 90 was the tournament that got away from England. It really was. It was the tournament where Lineker won the Golden Boot, where Gaza was the man of the tournament, and essentially England were robbed. But look, we'll take largely an Irish slant on all of this. Keith, what are your memories of Italia 90, just in terms of any buzz that was around at the time? Are you old enough to remember?
I was only 9 when Italia 90 happened, but I do remember it clearly. The place, the lads will remember as well, the country was just mental back then. Now, you boys had plenty of practice in the UK, England constantly qualifying for tournaments, but after Euro 88, to get to the World Cup, we were on the crest of a wave over here. And the buzz was the place was electric, pubs, people drinking and going on drives to celebrate and all. It was the good old days, and it was place was absolute bedlam. Like we are, as I said, I was 9, and you were in the pub with hundreds of people. My man and dad weren't even there. We were just in the pub watching these games. The party spilling out onto the street, it was just absolute chaos. Like, it was unbelievable. A great time in Irish history. And I know that might sound a bit over dramatic, but it truly is. Anyone, we're all in around the same age, and anyone will remember that. And it's even still spoken to now as a great stage of Irish history. So, yeah, it was a great time, and really got swept up in it. Now, the lads may be older than me, or maybe not, had more of an experience, but I enjoyed it. As I say, as a young 9-year-old.
Phil, you were a little bit older back then in 1990. What were your memories leading into the tournament? Was there a real sense of anticipation around the country at that time?
So I was 13.
Yeah.
Right? And I sent Gav my ticket tonight from the Ireland-England game because I was at it in Cagliari in Sardinia. So, like, for me, football had become a thing since 1986. Now, I mean, a proper thing. So, like, that was the last World Cup, and it was the first time you sort of realised that football was on television those times, because people really have to step back into what it was like in 1990, right? There was no 24-hour sports channels. There was no 24-hour sports news channels. There was no coverage of football every single day of the week on the news. People got most of their football coverage outside of their own hometown through the newspapers. They watched most of the scores and most of the games through teletext, right? There was an odd game on the television on Sunday afternoon, and you didn't have this wall-to-wall coverage of what it was. So when the World Cup came around, most leagues were very domestic at that stage. So most of the players in those leagues were from those countries. So when the World Cup came around, it was a real opportunity. International football then meant something because it was the best of those countries playing against it. And apart from a few super leagues, which was Italy and probably Spain at the time, right, the majority of players were homegrown that played in the leagues. So the European Cup and the World Cup gave those true opportunities to see who was the strongest league and who was the strongest teams, because they were the best representations of those leagues going into each of the oaks. So it's a very, very different time in football to what we have today, which is this multinational global event which is constantly on and never off. And that's why it's so strange when we talk about football now. Like this, what we're going through now is pretty much just an average week of normal football coverage back in the 90s, right? Like this is the 80s. This is what you got. You got a few news articles, you got a bit of news, and then you have to ring Team Talk for €900 a minute to transfer news, right? Grizz doesn't realise if he was back then, right, he would have been a multi-millionaire, because he could have been on the other end of one of those Team Talk things, about all types of shit, out giving different names each day and stuff like that, and people lapping up, dialing in €900 a minute, and Grizz just sitting there, yeah, blah, 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 right, whatever. So, job done. But in the build-up, like for Ireland, it was the first time Ireland had ever qualified for a World Cup, and when I jumped into this late to see. I know I wasn't meant to be on, but I jumped into it late because I said to Gav, you have to let me on because I was there and I lived it and breathed it, right? But the build up to this World Cup was mental, because while the World Cup tournament itself was mostly shite, okay, and this World Cup tournament is the result of multiple rule changes in the game because it was so bad, right? But the build up to this was mental. It has some of the best ever football songs, right? Yeah. Word in Motion, the English football song, fundamentally changes it, right? It was the most likeable English football team to ever exist, right? They had the most likeable English football manager to have ever existed. Yeah. The English press hated their own manager because he was so likeable. It's mad. This tournament nearly turns football on its head, really. But you still have the remnants of the hooliganism that had gone through England and Europe going on as well in the background. And there's loads of different laws and rules that are brought in specifically for this World Cup, because the Mexico one had been so far away, they hadn't had to worry too much around about the European hooligans going there. But for this one, it was definitely very, very sort of in front and centre in the mind of the various Italian police forces and things that was there. So coming into the tournament was mad. I remember Ireland going off to play Malta in a friendly before us, and the country was mental, right? There was replica jerseys everywhere. Pennies had this range of Ireland 1990 gear. We had Give It a Last Jack going on all over the shop, right? There was layout. You couldn't walk out. Like, and I'm 13, so I'm not drinking at this stage. So I've vivid memories of all this, right? Like, and you know, not being a stereotypical Irishman, like we weren't drinking at 14 unless you had a problem, like. But you were everywhere. It was just World Cup, World Cup, World Cup, and you know, even to this day, that World Cup is often credited with changing the confidence and belief in a nation and changing this country fundamentally. I know people might think it's mad, but you can see a chain of events that happens from 1988 when we beat England in Stuttgart right the way up to nowadays, and the Celtic Tiger and everything that followed. And 1990 is also seen as a seminal moment that really captures the nation and changes what the Irish sportsman believes from this point onwards. They stop being the honourable losers and start becoming people who can achieve things on the global stage. And this is what this war. Now, I know when we get to talk about it a bit more, it's a very interesting way that we got this over, because we do hold one of the all-time records in a World Cup tournament that we can talk about in a bit. But yeah, so for me, Ray, it's a 13-year-old's eyes on a football tournament who was about to go into secondary school, which is your equivalent to going, I don't know what the fuck they call it in England. They call it nothing at the moment because they're all at home wrecking their parents' heads, right? But like for me anyway, how I end up in the World Cup, I'm doing my entrance exams for secondary school. So at that time, they could still test it to see how intelligent it was. There was none of this PC bollocks where like people are all the same and everything. It wasn't. Like the intelligent lads were sticking the best classes, and you got to do honour stuff, and the stupid ones were sent to do woodwork and artwork. Like that's just the way it was, right? But they had to test you. So I did it. I managed to finish in the top 10 for the school that I was going into, right? thought none of it. My man bought me a Germany jersey, a West Germany jersey, the one that had the 3 stripes across it.
Yeah,
still have it. Next time I'm down in Wexford, I'm allowed to see it again. I still have it. I'll take a picture of it and show it to you, right? So, and I thought nothing of it, right? So I'm sitting at home. The World Cup kicked off on June the 8th, I think it was. Sitting at home, my dad walks in and he just puts down these 2 tickets in front of me, and they're 2 Italia 90 tickets. Right? So imagine what a 14-year-old is thinking when he sees this. He's just going, What are you going to the World Cup? That goes, yeah, me and Kevin are going to the World Cup. There's our tickets. What do you think of them, right? And I'm going, just bring me back something. Will you bring me back something? He goes, I brought you back something already, and pulls out a tour ticket and says, right, you're coming with us. I was like, whoa, right? So this was just off the charts for a kid at that age. It's just off the charts. So we go. The only thing that was going on at the same time, my sister, who was 8 at the time, and my mum, both had pneumonia. And so we left them in the bed in classic Irish fashion. See us now. Hope you are better when we get back, and buggered off out to the airport that night to get a flight
back in them days, wouldn't you? Sort of thing. But look, Gav. In terms of the actual, let's look at the group that Ireland are drawn in. Yeah, so they obviously get England, the Netherlands, and Egypt. I mean, do you recall back then? You know, Phil talks about the kind of the tide of optimism that the country was being swept up in, having beaten England 2 years previous in the Euros. Was there a feeling in Ireland that this group was manageable and that Ireland could get through into the knockout stages?
Oh, there definitely was. Like, Phil talks about Stuttgart there, 88, and I can remember 88, but I remember the game. I don't remember the whole thing around it. I can remember the game. But even that 88 English side, that was tipped to go a long, long way. And that when you looked at the likes of Beardsley, Barnes, you know, they'd Shilton, Goal, they'd Lineker, they'd brilliant players. But they were tipped to go a long way. Ireland beating them kind of, you know, our first tournament to qualify, and we beat them with a Houghton header was unbelievable. Phil's right, the build-up was insane, you know, like everyone was just down the credit union looking for loans, and they were going to Italy, and you know, they were telling it was for a kitchen or a bathroom or whatever it was, but that's what it was literally insane. And like Phil's right, you know, people were in pubs and there was Elwins knitting fucking Italian 90 jerseys for young fellas and all. It was mad. But the optimism, yeah, because I think when Ireland come back from Germany after, you know, going out very unluckily when you look at it to the Dutch, with a mad goal. Finn Keith, I think, is the man that scores it. But you're looking at it going, no, we can go to this. And Italy, although Germany is a decent country, Italy just looked a lot more exotic, you know. You go there in your holidays, you know, that kind of way. So, like, there was just thousands of people going. It was off the scale, like, what people were doing. The country literally shut down. Like, you think this is a shutdown. This is nothing compared to Italy 90. Like, the place just fucking stopped. It just stopped. It was just like, there was fellas like not going to work because they were going to the match and they were going out to watch it. It was insane. When you looked at the group, Egypt were unknown because Phil's right. You know, who fucking knew what Egypt were doing? Holland obviously were European champions and were fancied to go quite far in the group and are in the tournament. And England are 2 years on from 88 and are probably an even better side in 90 and 90. But Ireland were going there going, 1, we're going to have a fucking great time. 2, we'll put it up to anybody. And 3, Charlton was a messiah. Charlton was a fucking messiah. And when we are going there, you know, Charlton takes over Ireland in 86 and people are constantly at him, mainly because he's English. And he goes to Euro 88 and does what he does, and people go, he's actually good, this fella. And then when you look at the qualifiers, we start the qualifiers for the 1990 World Cup. I think we draw away to Northern Ireland and we get beaten by Spain. And then from there on in, we beat Spain, Northern Ireland, Malta at home. We beat Malta away. You know, we end up coming. Hungary's in there as well. We beat them, but we come second in the group, a point behind Spain. So people are going into it thinking, well, we've done it. We've beaten Spain. You know, Northern Ireland was meant to be a big issue at the time, and we swept them aside when needs be. So yeah, going into the tournament, right? Like genuinely, the place was just pandemonium. From I would say, easily a month out. Easily, it was insane.
Yeah. And obviously the first game, the tournament starts on the 8th of June. The first game is Ireland versus England in that group on the 11th of June. So there wasn't that long to wait. It's a 1-1 draw. I mean, from Ireland's point of view, I presume that was more than job done on that night, Gar, would you say?
Yeah, it was a strange one because for me, I know the lads have spoken about their experiences, but I came in off 88, obviously seeing the volley against England, and was quite young. I was only 9 going to 1990, so I was still quite young. And this to me was, this is probably the start of my love for football, with all the chaos that happened. And for me, the big thing that always stood out for me was the Germany and Holland game. It to me, probably the best game for me growing up with all the dirt that went on. Roy Card and Rudy Buller absolutely milling each other over for ages, and then one spits at each other, and then it goes to chaos. I mean, that's my main memory of it. But that Ireland game, I was at a barbecue locally in the house watching it, and Jesus, like, obviously as a start of my Liverpool fan career, like, you've got a couple of Irish players who are involved in that squad, and we can often look back. That wasn't actually a bad Irish squad when you look at it.
But this World Cup is responsible for fundamentally how Irish people view football for the next 25 years, right? Actually, 30 years, because in the lead up to this, right, even before we get to the first game, Charlton bans Eamon Dunphy from press conferences in Italia 90, right? Which causes Dunphy to be sent home. And John Giles had been requesting another colour commentator with him on the World Cup coverage back in Ireland for Italia 90, right? So they decided just to see if they could get Eamon Dunphy on, because his profile was so high after the row with Charlton in the build-up in the World Cup warm-up groups, right? And in the camps that they have. And from there on, Dunphy and Giles become the mainstay of football punditry in Ireland up until 2017. So we're talking about like this for Irish people and for people who watch football. It's that moment which changes how we're going to watch football for the next 35 years. Through the time the Premiership is invented, the Charlton eras, the Mick McCarthy eras, the Saipan incident, all that revolves around the row between Charlton and Dunphy in a World Cup training camp, which is almost like a repeat what happens in Saipan between Keane and McCarthy, whatever it was, 22 years later. But you were talking about the first game. The England-Ireland game isn't even on anyone's lips, because the very first match is Argentina against Cameroon, right?
Yeah,
and we have the two things that happen. Potentially, it's the maddest game, right? Because Cameroon comes in completely unfancied, as Gav was saying. Like, nobody knows what Cameroon's about. Nobody, right? Yeah. The 38-year-old Roger Miller, who happens to be the 38-year-old Roger Miller in the 94 World Cup, and the 38-year-old Roger Miller in the World Cup.
He was 38 in the 82 World Cup as well.
Yeah, it's supposedly he was born in a leap year, so it was a reverse leap year. So I mean,
1885.
Yeah, it was a leap year squared. So he only aged 1 year every 16 years. Hence the 3 World Cups of being 38. But so he electrifies the tournament. But you get your first ever sending off in a major tournament as well, because the Argentinians get a player sent off, and that means that any chance of them getting back into it is off the charts. Maradona has just gone through the time where he was peak Maradona, and he's now Al Pacino at the end of Scarface, right? He is loaded in Neapolitan Coke, floating around the pitch at this stage, right? Believing he's the king of the world in his home country, which is Italy at the time, right? And just feeling that he's end up going to be there, but at the same time he's off his mallet, right, at this stage, right? So
Phil, he didn't score in that World Cup, did he?
No.
I think he scored a penalty and
scored the penalty that knocked out Italy. This is where all the legal charges then arise from, right? Because we'll get to it at the end, but this is what happened. This is where Maradona's life is about to turn as well. Like, this World Cup, while it might be the best football, there's so many moments. The emergence of Cameroon happens in this very first game. Suddenly people sit up and go, who are these? What are they? And the joyous abandon that they're playing with football. You've got Higuita playing for Colombia as well in the opening game, right? And he's going, do you remember he's going wandering about? None of us had seen this. And next minute he's up on the halfway line. Like, we're talking about Manuel now and going, oh, look how brilliant he is, the way he takes the ball out and he's playing. Higuita was taking lads on. Back and watch the footage. He's going into their opposition half, dribbling and doing step overs and pullbacks and spraying the ball 40 yards across the pitch. And the Colombian players aren't even batting an eyelid. They're going, oh yeah, that's what he does. And it's just like grand. they mightn't have scored many goals, but there was mad things happening in this, and it was to the backdrop of the Italian stadiums that had all been renovated, and it was like Italy start off on fire, and when it gets to the Irish and England game, right? So they put all the England matches in Cagliari. That's how we ended up down there, right? Because they didn't want the English on the mainland in case they didn't get through the right? And they're able to pen them into one town. So I said this, I was at the match, right? So when we got there, we went Ray Tracy travel. I don't know, do Ray Tracy travel still exist? Anyway, they got, it was a last minute deal with Ray Tracy travel. We flew over on a plane. Gav, you'd love this. You could still smoke at that stage, right?
And you're saying you're talking about like Dunphy and stuff, and that did make RTE, but the likes of smoking on planes, the world went down in my estimation when that stopped. Because like, what's the harm? That's all I'll ask on that. There's no harm in having a smoke and a cigarette on an airplane, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if you want to know why your air is purer on an airplane than it is on the ground, it's because people used to smoke on planes and they put in air purification systems to remove the smoke from the planes. Anyway, that's the science. So we're on the plane, right? We're on Delta Airlines, we're flying over. I was doing a stop from thing and we're flying over there. And right, the Irish get on, and the air hostesses refuse to come down the back of the plane for the first hour of the flight, right? And the reason why they refused to come down is because all the Irish had gotten out of their seats on takeoff. So this is like, there's no seatbelts, and started doing rock the boat as they took off on the runway in Dublin Airport. So as they're taking off, rock the boat, going back and forth as they're lifting off. Bananas drunk. I've never seen this, right? So I'm like, you've gone to the pub with your old lad now, but you've never seen this. This was insane, right? Just fellas bananas drunk, right? Like grown adults, middle-aged men, bananas drunk. So we land in Cagliari. We end in our hotel is 500 yards away from the main English camp, right? Okay. So it's like, we're going, what's going on? So we had a police cordon around the hotel we were staying in. And there was a curfew on the hotel to all the local areas. Because of the drinking, they were scared of what the English could do. They stopped serving alcohol at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And on the days of games, they could only serve alcohol up till 10 o'clock in the morning, which meant that you couldn't get much alcohol. But the classic Irish, they'd found the bar and sweet-talked the pub owner into pulling the shutters down. So we were in the bar from 10:30 in the morning, pulled the shutters down. The game wasn't on until 8 o'clock local time over there at night, right? And the lads started drinking all day long inside the pub with the shutters pulled down, right? The barman let them out at 6:30 because the bus was coming to pick us up. The bus was at the hotel and didn't know where any of the Irish fans were, and had to pull off down the road to this supermarket that was closed or looked closed because the shutters were down. Let all the Irish fans out straight onto the bus and brought to the ground. Right? We were all in t-shirts and shorts, and it was freezing going to the ground itself. But honestly, I've never seen, and to this day, I've never seen police, like the police that were there, like we think about Royal Police, they had Uzis, dogs and stuff. And I've been to like Liverpool trips where you go there and they have dogs and stuff like this. But the level of armour the lads had on, I've never seen that at a European match since then.
You talk about that opening game, right? And I'm just looking it up here. And it's Cameroon win 1-0 against Argentina, right? Cameroon have 2 men sent off, right? They've a man sent off on an hour mark. They score on 68, and then a fella sent off at 88. And this is the description of it, right? It's basically Claudio Caniggia on a break for Argentina manages to avoid 2 Cameroon tackles, but can do little to avoid the last tackle, which is waist height. And sends the Cameroon man's legs flying into the air, such as the velocity. All right, the referee has no choice but to send him off, having sent off his friend just 25 minutes earlier for something much less severe. Like, they were fucking lunatics. They were.
It's pure football, Gav. You don't get it these days.
Yeah. And they still go on to win the second game, but then somehow by the third game they're getting beat 4-0 by the Soviet Union. I mean, that Cameroon side really was the story of the tournament, really, wasn't it? All the way up until it gets knocked out by
England. They don't even have a crest on their jerseys. They're just wearing jerseys with a green top. It's just
green top, wasn't it? Yeah.
The lads went down to Adidas and said, "Can we have some jerseys?" Yeah, there you go. Off we went to the World Cup with like a bag of jerseys. I reckon there was rips and everything by the end of the tournament. They only one set, and they had to bring it down to the dry cleaners after each match, and it was roasting over there.
So let's come back to the England, Ireland, Netherlands, Egypt group. It works out in a really peculiar way because there's 1-1 draws, then there's 2 0-0 draws, and then we're in this peculiar situation where all 4 teams could finish on the same points, goal difference, and so on. And that was avoided by way of England ending up beating Egypt 1-0 and Ireland drawing with the Netherlands. And then we end up in this funny situation where there's drawing lots for second place. And it wasn't even televised, was it? I mean, can anyone remember how that went down?
Yeah, I do. I think Mark Wright scores for England, did he? In a 1-0 win away.
Yeah, he did 1-0, didn't he?
Yeah, and what happened was we're losing to a real gullet goal. And basically Bonner does this thing. That's the only two things he does in the tournament. He does it in 2 games where he just makes a mad face and kicks it really far down the pitch. And Ireland is it's Benny Vernada, I think, gets a mad kind of contact on it. It comes away from the keeper and Quinn scores. And literally the word goes around the stadium that, listen, the draw will do us here. We'll only be drawing lots. And they literally played the last 20 minutes like just passing it around, like not giving a shit. And
Holland tip off. Gav, you remember Holland tip off and knock it back to their centre backs, and not a single Irish player enter the half.
No, they just stand there.
Yeah.
And if it plays out in midfield, just tapping it around, we lost the ball, God love us, and it just goes on and on and on like this. But at the end, you're right, it wasn't televised. It got to the end, and because England had won, they end up on 4 points because it was 2 points for a win. We end up on 3 from 3 draws. Holland are the same, and Egypt, of course, are on 2 points and go out. And it literally just goes, the match is over. Switch off the telly. And then the word comes through, listen, just to let you know, Ireland have finished second, Holland have finished fourth, or third, which leaves us going on to Romania. But it was a mad tournament from the start. There's no way to explain it. Like, Cameroon are assaulting lads for the crack. Do you know what I mean? And they're doing all this. Italy got off to an absolute flyer, if I remember right. And this.
Do you not remember Scotland? Do you remember Scotland having an absolute
Costa Rica?
Costa Rica. Yeah. They had a Costa Rica. It became a verb to have a Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But your point, Gav, the other part in our group, because our group was seen as a group of death because it was ourselves, Holland and England, and plus Egypt, right? That Egypt match, if you ever go back and watch it, don't, because if you watch it for 2 minutes, you'll see enough. You'll see the whole game played out. Egypt put 11 men in their own box, right? You know the way here when they say the teams pack the box, but Egypt put 11 men almost inside their own penalty spot, right, and created a wall. And the Irish tactics, of course, was to hump it into the box, and that was the end of it. That happened for 93 minutes. Led to Dunphy breaking down live on screen. Flung a pen across the thing, and RTE have edited every set of highlights ever since. But ever since, he flung it and said, "Today I'm ashamed to be Irish." And to this day, he said he's never said that, but he did, because I watched it live, and he clearly said that, right? But that was what when England beat Egypt, everyone was stunned because they thought Egypt did the exact same tactics, 157 men in the box, and England had to play in and around them to get it. And of course, they had Gary Lineker, so Gary Lineker is the only person who could ever score on that thing, because even the Dutch couldn't break down the Egyptians. So I
think the English goal is a ball into the box and Wright gets a header on it before the keeper. I think he flicks it on into the far corner.
They were surprised. But the Yugoslavia lads, I was looking up. I completely forgot that Yugoslavia was in this tournament, and they got
the great names. Absolutely great squad that Yugoslavia won.
This is just before the breakup of Yugoslavia. Well, it's mad. And then
did Prosinecki young player tournament?
Yeah,
that was when we first saw Robert Prosinecki.
Yeah,
Suker, Savicevic. They had loads of the players that went on, Croatians and Montenegrins and that, and they were a great team, that Yugoslavans. Absolute crackers.
Absolute crackers. And then you have Belgium as well. People forget Belgium. They were absolutely brilliant. They've been brilliant in the 86 World Cup. They were brilliant in this. Spain with Michel. Michel scores a hat-trick against South Korea in Spain. And it looks like Spain are on course to do something, and they get knocked out in the next round to, was it Yugoslavia they got knocked out to? I think it was Yugoslavia that knocked them out.
Spain topped that group. Belgium second.
West Germany is the team that are scoring the goals. They win 4-1 against Yugoslavia, but Yugoslavia go on to win the next 2 games and go through. They beat the UAE 5-1, and then they draw against Colombia. So,
but the mad thing is, right, there's loads of goals in the group games, right?
Yeah.
It's when we get to the knockout stage, it's like
They dry up.
Yeah, they completely dry up. It's mad.
Fucking dry up. Oh, they all shit themselves in the group stages, don't they? Everything's going to extra time and all because nobody's bothering their bollocks to try and attack. Mad tournament. Like, Phil said something a few minutes ago. It's the most iconic tournament, maybe again because we're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, but it does have everything, you know, the music, the iconic images, you know, the tournament had everything. But when you look back at it, I was looking back today and Jesus Christ, some of the football was melody in it. You know, it was 0-alls, back passes, a Fred kicking lumps, the lowest number of goals per game in a World Cup, the most number of red cards. Like, it was absolute bleeding butcher stuff, but it was a great tournament. Like, everything about it, it was brilliant. And I thought for me, it was the last real innocent World Cup because it became very commercialised, you know, like kits weren't the main thing back then, although there was some cracking kits in it. The West Germany one mentioned there, like the English kits and all, beautiful, the Irish ones. But 94, it was America, you know, fucking everything in America is all brand, big this, big brand that, and everything after that was all branded, whereas I found this one, there was a bit of an innocence to it as well, you know what I mean? And it just had everything, but the football was shite.
The football was terrible, and because if you look at the teams that were in it, there was a plenty of South American teams in there that just wanted to absolutely upend you, i.e. Uruguay, and you know, then you had Costa Rica, you had like Cameroon were just, I can't tell people how mad Cameroon were, and we'll get on to them later on when Dicko talks about it's a quarter final I think they get to against England, or it might be in the last 16. But the Keith's right. It was the last kind of innocent World Cup, but it also had the best ever fucking sticker album of all time, bar none. Yes. But the only 100%. Thing was, right, there was kids about 6 or 7 walking around and they'd arms like Hulk Hogan from carrying this thing, right? Because it was a massive, like, imagine a ring binder, but imagine it 4 times the size that it should be, actually, in depth, right? And you collected this book every week or every month or whatever it was every week, I think, and it just had so much shit in it. Like, it was the best thing you've ever seen. It had all the stickers. It went through all the World Cups, all the goals in World Cups. I still have it. I might still have it. But it was just like, it was. You could say it's innocent, but it was the first time I ever looked at a sticker book and went, "Fuck me, they put the effort in here." And ever since then, nothing ever stood up to it. But you know,
Gav, while they're on the sticker book query, right? I actually completed the book before it came out, right? An uncle of mine was doing security for a warehouse of a place. A place beginning with E, right? So we went to school before the tournament. Lads, I have all these, and I had this big, huge box of swaps, lads. And where'd you get those? My uncle must have fleeced about 7 boxes of cards from me. I must have filled the book twice over. Me and my brother both had it. And I went in. I remember being the idolised in school. No one looked at me after it, by the way, but idolised because I had all the boxes of swapsies in my arms. So what you're saying about the arms growing a bit, yeah, mine did grow a bit because I had to carry around extra boxes with me that time.
This sounds to me a bit like, I don't know if anyone's watched the McMillions documentary. This, to me, looks like the Irish equivalent of stealing the McMillions cards before they come out. So look, let's get into the knockout stage, and we'll stick with Cameroon because that was actually the first game, and it was 0-0.
Hang on, there's only one moment that you need to care about in this knockout stage, right? So this is 1-1, and it looks like it's heading for penalties, right? Nothing matters up until this point, right? Higuita, you were talking about extra time, right? Higuita, I think it was the second period of extra time, decides to wander out of his goal, 40 yards up the pitch, right, with nobody around him, gets dispossessed by Miller, who then proceeds to run back towards an empty goal and score the winning goal to go. You don't need to talk about anything else in that match, right, except the 2 moments that define what this tournament looked like. Higuita go for a stroll for 45 yards, and Miller, who was older than any other player,
all of us put together.
Yeah,
all that name
dispossess him, doing his little dance.
Yeah, and run and still get away from the ball and score, and then do his dance with his little wiggly bum in the corner flags as well, and do it like that's it. They could have just stopped the tournament then and just said, right, this is now the greatest way to end the tournament because we're not going to beat this moment. The goalkeeper having a wander, going for a 45-yard wander and get dispossessed, and then imagine that today. imagine Karius taking the ball out right for and wandering up the pitch for 45 yards. Then getting dispossessed.
I'm reading here, right? It says here, meanwhile, the heroics of Cameroon and Roger Milla continued in that game with Colombia. Milla was introduced as a second-half substitute with the game goalless, eventually breaking the deadlock midway in extra time. 3 minutes later, he netted a second after Colombia goalkeeper Rene Higuita was dispossessed by Milla, well out of his goal, leaving the striker free to slot into an empty net. Cameroon was reduced to 2-1 shortly afterwards, but Cameroon held on to be the first ever African team to reach the World Cup quarterfinals. The thing about Roger Milla is, like you said, like he was 38 for about 15 years. Like he must be Taribo West's cousin or something. But
still 38 now.
I think he is. Like I reckon he'd be on trial. He'd be on trial with a championship side that are struggling for survival probably towards the end of the season. But like Colombia were massively fancied in this, you know, and even it going to extra time, you're like, Colombia will do it, because Cameroon just didn't have the wherewithal, and they had no like discipline about them. You just thought this team could get a throw against them and just end up punching the head off someone, you know. But the dance is what lives well.
There you go, Gav. Look,
unbelievable.
There you go. Top.
Look at me, Gav.
I'm not looking at any using that screen. Oh, we're watching it here, yeah. So he has it. So Phil is on the screen. Higuita is literally playing as if he's Fernando Hierro. That's how far out he is. and then runs back after Milla and just tries to fucking lampoon him, like just died 2-footed from about 8 feet away. Like, absolutely insane it was. Absolutely insane. It's the best World Cup you've ever seen, as far as I'm concerned.
It's just like, it's outrageous.
So I think at that stage the tournament was well and truly a light, and Czechoslovakia beat Costa Rica. Then you're on to a serious game, which is Brazil against Argentina, and obviously with what had happened in the group stage, Brazil would have gone into that as big favourites, but Argentina come out the other side of it. Does anyone remember that game at all?
Yeah, Brazil were brutal in this tournament. They were playing
shocking.
A bit of a shell of that squad. You know, I was looking at it earlier. They went in, I think, with Correca. Now, Correca was a lethal forward at the time. And Muller, I think, up front. But he had Romario, Bebeto were in the squad. They had Alan Mao off Napoli in the team as well. But there was nothing really about them. Do you know what I mean?
They
I remember watching
on Correca, didn't they?
Yeah, and you know, Correca, he wasn't a fancy player. He was a good striker, but this Brazil team didn't have much flair in it at all. Dunga in midfield. It was a very. I remember actually Branco and Jorginho were the fullbacks. Branco, the left back, was renowned a bit for Roberto Carlos before his time. Had a bit of a
Liverpool in the Winners' Cup.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned him. So he was having an absolute blinder for Brazil that day, right? Yeah. And he was given water at half time by the Argentinian captain. Was it Goicoechea or one of them, right? And it had horse tranquilizers in it to slow him down for the second half.
Yeah. And they had the bottles marked. The Argentinians had, let's say they had 10 bottles, but one of them had a green lid. So if the opposition team wanted a drink, there you go. Take it out with that.
No, hey.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're surprised. Maradona ends up on a fucking 15-month ban about 3 months after this tournament. Like, do you know what I mean? The Argentinians were mental.
And on the run, can never go back to Italy for the best part of 25 years after this, because he's done for tax evasion and drugs. So it's like this is not that funny. Like, do you know what I mean?
Maradona was so important to Italy back then that he actually swung the support in the tournament. A lot of Italians were actually supporting Argentina in it because of Maradona and the impact he'd had in Italy. You know, they were saying him, but he was on the wane, and as Phil said, he scores the goal that knocks Italy out, and that was it. Boom, flips, and it's like now every dirty court case he had behind him was getting dug up. Every death getting called in, you know, it was mad how it flipped on him. And
but it's a great goal that wins the game, though. Is it Maradona that puts Caniggia through?
Yeah,
he goes through about 6 players. Doesn't he? Does Maradona cut through about 6 players and plays it through? Yeah.
It's a great goal.
And the best thing about it, if I remember right, is Caniggia rounds the keeper. And when he rounds the keeper, instead of slotting it low, I think he lifts the ball a little bit.
He lifted it.
Yeah.
In case anybody sliding back towards the goal. It's very... if you watch it back, I could be wrong, but I'm nearly sure he rounds the keeper by literally barely touching the ball and lifts it into the goal rather than playing it along the ground. He's kind of taken that... possibility of someone sliding in and getting rid of it. He lifts it into the net. I remember that one vividly, and always thinking, I always thought he had grey hair. Do you know what I mean? He's brilliant hair, hasn't he? Like,
it was a great World Cup for hair, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't
even like it was stunning looking hair where you went, I'd love to have hair like that. It was just like, it didn't look like it belonged on him. And like when he was running around, it was all over the place, and it looked like, do you know what it looks like? Do you ever buy like your kids a cheap doll, and like when you actually pull the hair at the top of it, like there's only 4 holes in the top of this doll's head, and there's loads of strands of hair coming out of it, so there's loads of gaps. That's what his head looked like. But in fairness,
he looked like the type of stripper that'd be on in Angels at 2:00 in the
day. Yeah. Do you notice none of us are denying that?
Look, this is the descent of Brazil as well, because this is the first step towards ugly football that they win the 1994 World Cup with, because for whatever reason they decide that ugly football is the only way to go after this World Cup. And it's the death of the modern Brazil until Ronaldinho reappears. I know we have the 98 farce, but you have the 2002 Ronaldinho-led Express, and that's the redemption of Brazil from that at that point, and then it's up and down since then. But yeah, this is like the death of Brazilian football. Like the '86 Brazilian team, I remember crying when they got knocked out.
Outrageous.
It was just like Brazil at that point was just every time you watch football, international football, Brazil was the Harlem Globetrotters in their yellow jerseys and light blue shorts and white socks, and it was so iconic. And then they were playing France, and from that day forward, I hated France.
Look, we're talking about great. We'll stick with that same day. I mean, it must have been some day with the thoughts of Brazil versus Argentina, followed by West Germany against the Netherlands. And for me, Rudi Völler does have the best hair in that tournament. And it's made even better with a massive amount of grok down the back of his hair after that. You were talking about it earlier, Guy. It was some game, wasn't it? In the San Siro.
It's mad. I really fell in love with football after that game. Lads were just kicking the shite out of each other. Völler and Rijkaard absolutely battered each other from end to end. It was class. Hullet was milling into challenges. Matthias flying into challenges. He actually scored quite a few goals in that World Cup, didn't he? From centre mid.
He scores a belter in this one, a low drive, doesn't he, from about 25 yards.
And my love for Matthias began then, because I just thought he was absolutely quality.
He was the libero. He was the throwback to Beckenbauer. He was the libero in that Roman defensive. He's either a sweeper at one stage or he's the defensive midfielder, and then he's roaming up as playing as a number 10. It's just
he could do everything, Phil. He could do everything. He was just the all-round player. He was unbelievable to watch. Could play in several positions. But just that game, I think that's where we fell in love with. Just a lot of dirtbags just killing each other. It was great to see.
There's a lot to be said for it.
I remember looking at it and looking at the Dutch team and having watched the Dutch team in '88, and you've got Van Basten, Rijkaard and Hullet at the peak of their powers in this World Cup, right? And it's one of the greatest regrets I have is not seeing that team go on, because I think Holland's biggest, so there's the Holland-Germany rivalry that's been going on for years, and a bit like the way Everton get dragged into the Everton-Liverpool rivalry and forget about their game and start playing the occasion all the time, right? Germany never played the occasion. Holland always played the occasion, and this is exactly what happens in this game. Because,
but you know what the gas thing is, Phil? Do you know what the gas thing is? Just going back to what before that, the draw is made for the World Cup before it. Obviously, it's obviously fucking made before it. But what I'm saying is, like, we knew if we finished second in our group, we would get, say, first in this group, or we get, that's the way it would go. But Holland knew if they came out of third out of that group, they would get the winners of Germany's group. And they're still strolling around against Ireland in Palermo or wherever we played them. And they're still strolling around going, we just get through the group. They didn't really think it through, did they? Because to me, before you went into that tournament, whether you finished first, second or third of the group, you were assigned, second in Group C or first in Group. I don't think another draw was done mid-tournament to put the third-place teams into spaces. So Holland would have known, if we finish third here, lads, we're fucked. We need to beat Ireland to make sure we're definitely not going to be drawing lots. So Holland, for me, they deserve it. That's all I want to say. I think they deserve it.
But I think Holland were so confident and so arrogantly confident about how good they were that they didn't mind. They didn't mind playing Germany. It was only as that game got closer and closer and closer and closer did they start playing the occasion as opposed to the game. Like, we're talking about a team that has Rijkaard, Koeman, Wouters, Van Basten, Hulle, Witschke, Wim Kieft, Brian Roy, Johnny Van Chip, Hans van Breukelen in goal, Barry Van Aerle. There's Danny Blind, Aaron Winter, Danny Blind. Like, we are talking players that were well-known international footballers at this stage that had done and achieved things at the various teams there. That loads of them are Ajax that had gone to a European Cup final and will go to a European Cup final. Loads of them are at Milan who will take apart that Ajax team in the European Cup final. Like, these are which is very strange because the Germany team, well, it's the West Germany, it's the last West Germany team as well. So again, they're very much a Bundesliga based team, and even though we knew the big players, like we knew Matthäus, we knew Voller, and we knew Ilgner, and we probably knew Jürgen Kohler, right? After that,
Klinsmann, Brehme.
Klinsmann,
a few others to come after, didn't it?
Klinsmann, Brehme, and Matthäus were all at Inter, weren't they? They were the three at Inter when AC had the Dutch three. They had the German three at Inter because you only had 3 foreigners in Serie A.
Klinsmann is only emerging at that stage, right? Brehme is well known. But Matthäus is the big name that's there because he's at Inter as well, and Rudi Voller is at Roma, and they are the big names that are there. Everyone else is in Germany, right? And they're not like what you'd call renowned names, whatever it is. And again, it's that German machine as opposed to the individual brilliance. But Matthäus is just Lothar Matthäus at that stage has legitimate claims to be the best player in the world, and this is what drives them through. And they're ably assisted by loads of players like Littbarski and Jürgen Kohler and all these lads who go on to have like bigger names and bigger careers in terms of what's there. But like, that's why the Dutch are looking at saying, we've got the best players in the world here. It's like looking at Liverpool now. They're saying, we've got the best players. We don't care who we get. So they didn't care whether they beat us or not. They look at the German team and they're saying, man for man, we've a better squad. Not just a better team, but we've a better squad than these lads have. And that's the way they played. And then, but when they come up, they play the occasion and they get done. They get done by the occasion because the Germans are able to keep their head about them, and they just go on and win the match.
Yeah,
and that's why Germany were always ruthless at international levels, because they rarely get done by the occasion.
So that's the 4th game. Then the 5th game is the Ireland-Romania game, yeah?
What a day.
What day of the week was it, lads?
No idea.
I have a feeling it was... I think it was a weekend.
Okay. It was the last time the country was in full-on lockdown because nobody was going to work. Everyone was just pissed.
I'll tell you, it wasn't a weekend. It wasn't. I'm nearly sure it wasn't a weekend. It might have been. It was on in the afternoon time.
Tuesday. It was a 5 o'clock kickoff. Yeah.
Yeah, and my memory of this is, like, back in Ireland at that time, you know, we had 2 channels. You know, if you had more than 2 channels, you were a fucking snob and you were looked down at. But
I'd screen sport and everything.
You know, we had 2 channels. I think we had RT1 and RT2. It was a pipe.
Because you lived in a caravan.
Cable. I didn't live in a caravan. I lived in a semi-detached house. And I want to emphasise the semi-detached bit because it wasn't a terrace, so go fuck yourself. So, but the memory I have is that everybody fucked off to the pub. I'm only 8. And everybody fucked off to the pub. And I always remember watching the game. It was an awful game. Although Ireland did have chances to win it. Hadji hits a shot from about 30 yards out that looks like it's in all day. Bonner makes a decent save. But Hadji is the only one for them that I'm kind of going, every time he gets something, like, fucking hell, get him, kill him. You know what I mean? But the memory I have is that the game finishes 0-0 after 90 minutes, and me and my cousin were in my cousin's house, which live about 15 doors down the road. I wasn't in my house because my man and dad fucked off to the pub. And we went out on the field for a game of football, you know, that extra time, another half an hour of this. We came back in for the penalties. And just as Timofte takes the penalty, the pipe fucking falls out of the back of the telly. Right? So, all you're left is watching that static screen, yeah? And I'm like, what the fuck happened there? So my cousin goes to jump behind the telly to get the thing back in. My older cousin, she's minding us, is like, don't break the telly. The telly's swaying on this stand, but it's not like the weight of the telly's then days. And he eventually gets it back in, and as he gets it back in, you just see O'Leary walking up to take a penalty. And you don't know what's happened because we're waiting for this, you know, the display on the screen to come up to tell us what the score is, and then we realised what had happened. We had to wait till after the game to see, did your man sky it? Did Bonner save it? Did your man fall over? But it was an awful game, Ray. An awful game. But
it was actually Monday. I just checked up on that. So obviously those two big games we talked about were on the Sunday, and this is Monday at 5 o'clock. So I suspect a lot of people were taking the day off work.
Ray, there was nobody walking. Ray, you need to realise this. Nobody was just fucking walking. Nobody was walking. Right. No, even if you were employed, you just weren't going to work, and the chances were you were out drinking with your boss.
This was a lockdown. This was a lockdown, except you were locked into a pub and you were made to watch the match. You weren't allowed to leave the pub until the match was over.
Scandalous what was going on.
Scandalous. Lads, and you remember Aldridge just tackle on Hadji that game, do you?
Well, Aldridge goes off early, doesn't he?
Aldridge absolutely. It's a stonewaller. It's 3 red cards nowadays. He absolutely mills him out of it. And the referee just walks over with a little yellow card. There you go.
Keith, remember this one. You can talk about that tackle, but there's only one tackle worth talking about in the whole game. Right? And this symbolised this game at all, right? So Hadji turns and goes away from McCarthy, and McCarthy jumps on his back. And Hadji starts to give him a piggyback.
Yeah.
And the whole game, like that was that in the whole. And right, the referee blows for free, and the referee's breaking his bollocks laughing. Doesn't even bother giving me a yellow card. We just thought that was hilarious. And away goes.
Hadji was about 5'5", McCarthy 6'4".
And the referee is kind of looking, going, it's very warm out. We're all getting tired, but you see that? That's bringing the spirits of the whole stadium up. Fair play. That's the carry on that was going on. It was literally like, do you know what? It was like at times, if you look back on it now without knowing what had gone on, you would literally look and think that Ireland were competition winners and people were just, amusing themselves towards this. They were humouring Ireland because they were doing stuff that was just mad.
Yeah.
And
there was people in the stadium so drunk they were standing up asleep. There's video footage of lads standing and singing and being swayed by the crowd. There's so many. They're out for the count.
I watched it the other day when it goes to penalties, and I just happened to something come up about. I think my daughter asked me about a football song, like, put them under pressure or whatever the song is, and I was playing it for her, and I happened to be sitting down and I said, I'll look back at this, and I was watching the video come up of Romania, Ireland, the penalties, right? And like Phil says, it's like the place is full of Irish now. Absolutely rammed the Irish, all corners of the ground. But they go up for the penalties, to flip the coin. And there's kind of a silence around the ground. You'll never walk alone, believe it or not, sang by the Ireland supporters before the penalty start take place. You never walk alone, it's a song of choice. But like the coin is flipped and everyone's kind of looking around. You see Charlton talking to the lads on the ground and they're all looking up and going, yeah, I'll take a pen or whatever it is. And with that, the referee points to both sets of teams and says, right, you need to be in the centre circle. And he literally takes 4 steps towards the goal. And the place erupts. Like, yeah, we won the fucking coin toss. And I swear, go back and watch it on YouTube. The fucking stadium erupts, right? And there's about 7,000 people behind the goal, right? And they're celebrating as if Ireland have won the World Cup. And all they get is like, they're taking them down this end of the stadium as opposed to the other end. And it made no difference because Ireland were in both ends, but the place fucking erupts. I swear, it was insane. And the footage before the game, do you remember going back to the 86 Cup final? You see lads getting pulled up into Wembley, into the towers of Wembley. Well, this is happening in January, but like much more dangerous. Like there's lads jumping off balconies and getting caught mid-air and getting dragged through these tiny windows that are the size of a prison cell window. And like it's just go back and watch it. It's the best footage you'll ever watch.
Yeah, that stadium has like towers on each corner, doesn't it?
And these they're kind of a salmon-y colour. I think if I remember right, and there's fellas jumping like they have they have the flag wrapped around them, and then they have, you remember the things you used to wear on their wrists that was like plaited green, white, and orange, right? And they've a hat on their head, they've a bag of cans, and next of all, they just jump clean off this thing, and one fella's over there just like, oh, come on, Mick, you'll make it, right? And they don't give a fuck if Mick makes it, they'll try and catch him, and if you don't, fuck it, you're in the ground anyway, I'll have a ticket.
You knew the risk.
But like, literally, there was fellas getting caught in there, right, and dragged through this hole. I'd say it was about 18 inches square, and all you can see is the jersey, the flag, the fucking thing on their wrist, the hat, the bag of cans getting dragged in, the old stonewash jeans on them. It was fucking insane. Go back and watch it. It's amazing.
Simple at time.
It's the best World Cup ever.
And it's also the moment that like George Hamilton is born. Nobody knew who George Hamilton was. Because George Hamilton commentates in all the Ireland games up until this match, right? And does this match, and we have danger here. All the euphemisms come out. He's still using them to this day. But with that, we managed to get to the penalty shootout, and we believe because we win this penalty, and even to this day, ask any Irishman, right? What will you take penalties? Yeah, because we always win a penalty shootout. We've never won a penalty shootout since then. Never won a single penalty shootout since then. We believe we're like the Germans when it comes to penalty shootouts, because we won this one penalty shootout. We've lost more penalty shootouts than we've won. But you ask any Irishman, I'll take the penalties.
That was the main one. Yeah, and look, later that evening, Italy beat Uruguay, and obviously
absolutely no idea what happened there.
Yeah, that's another game which Scalacci scores in. It's a 2-0 win, and that obviously then lays the path for who Ireland will play in the next.
Right. Scalacci was a mafia plant. He was a small capo in Sicily until this World Cup happened, right? And he was put into the team by one of the bosses. Like Scalacci doesn't exist until this World Cup happens, and all of a sudden he scores 126 goals in 4 games. Like there is no such thing as total Scalacci before this World Cup or after this World Cup. In fact, the next time we hear from Scalacci is in the 2002 World Cup roundup, when he's brought out by Irish media to talk about what happens next in the quarterfinals. Genuinely, go check it out.
He has long hair and all. He played bald in that tournament. Comes out now.
Goes out and plays for Juventus allegedly for a season.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's like the general manager of 2 of the plants in Turin for the Agnelli family. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying nothing more. Right?
Oh, yeah, because you haven't really said anything there.
He came from nowhere. Phil is dead, right?
He did come from nowhere.
And he keeps Vialli and Mancini out of the team. And they were red hot at the time for Sampdoria.
Yeah, but clearly, if he's part of the mafia, he's just holding up and saying, they're not playing. Right? And the manager's there going,
horse his head in the bed.
Vialli is deadly, like. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, but you don't even play football. I'm starting for Italy, and that's the fucking end of it. And he ends up scoring loads of goals. Like, but like, you were talking about Hadji being piggybacked by McCarthy. I just can't understand why McCarthy just didn't give him a strainer. You know,
because you get away with it
and just give him, potential to tackle and just fucking knock him clean out. And Mick McCarthy's the type that wouldn't give a shit if he was in the mafia or not. Do you know what I mean? Mick McCarthy's from bleeding Barnsley and pretended he was Irish so he could play international football. You think he gives a fuck about total Scalacci? Do you know what I mean? But this was the birth, Ray. This was the birth of, and you'll know it now because you're Irish more or less now. Well, you'll know you're applying for the passport because of the way your country's fucked. This was the birth of, well, it wasn't the birth of, the original T-shirts that came out was Who Put the Ball in the English Net and Ray Houghton, and there was cartoons on the T-shirts, and this is where the Fuck Scalacci T-shirt came from. and people just go around with Fuck Scalacci on T-shirts. Like, it was mad. Like, Ray, you should have lived over here. It was much better.
It does sound like the crack in the 90s.
It was the absolute crack it was. You know what I mean? I mean,
Scalacci spent 7 years running up to that cup playing for Messina.
Yeah, there you go, Messina. Good luck.
Yeah, Messina. Playing for Messina.
6 appearances in 12 years.
Just collecting money from his friend.
219 appearances. But look, 7 years in obscurity.
He was the Peggy-Fexad of fucking Italian football. He only played about 8 games in his whole career.
Well, I was just going to say, he ends up with 16 caps. And obviously, half of them are going to be in the World Cup, or practically half of them. He ends up with 7 goals for his country, which means he scored 1 other goal outside of that tournament.
Yeah, because he won the Golden Boot, didn't he?
He won the Golden Boot. Despite joke.
Even if he didn't, he was getting the Golden Boot.
He got the Golden Boot. He got the Golden Boot actually by way of scoring in third place. Third and fourth place game against England, as it turns out.
I heard the Germans gave him the World Cup trophy after. That's all I'm saying.
They didn't give it to him. He just took it.
Just went up and went, that's mine.
But do you remember the goal? I can't forget the goal. It's like this is one of these magic Bonner moments that he'll keep for the World Cup. Scalacci hits no, it wasn't. It was Giannini.
Minute, lads.
Was it Giannini or
Downey? Was it?
Downey hits a shot. Straight down his throat. You couldn't put it on
Downey hits it.
Yeah, straight down his throat. And for whatever reason, Bonner decides that he's going to have a dose.
Straight through, wasn't it?
Well, Bonner was the first person to get mad cow's disease because at that point his legs just go wobbly and he falls over. If you watch the goal back, he's not even diving or anything. He just falls over. It's like he goes to put his hands up and then starts falling like this. It's almost like the mafia had got onto him before the game. You palm the ball out to Scalacci. That's the end of it. If you don't, we kill you and all your family in Northern Ireland. And I don't care if you're in the IRA. That's what's going to happen. And that's just the end of it, right? And that was it.
Going up the big Pat Bonner, giving him a little slap on the chops. Boom, boom. Make sure you drop one of them in front of our boy Toto.
Well, Keith, if you want to know the real reason for this happening. So, as I said to you, just when we wrapped up the Ireland-Romania bit, right? So for this game, RTE, in their infinite fucking wisdom, decides to get rid of George Hamilton off the commentary and put the greatest jinx that ever lived. Now, I met him, lovely man before he died, absolutely smashing fella, and he had an incredible memory for sports events. But you never put Jimmy McGee, on an Ireland match because it's just you're basically just jinxing it, right? And he spent the whole tournament bigging up Big Pat Bonner after his amazing saves in the Romania thing, right? And within 10 seconds, he's dropping balls. He's getting mad cow's disease, falling over and dropping the ball back at Scalacci's feet, right? And between that and giving the Pope a kiss, like, we basically jinxed ourselves. Like,
yeah, but we went over and started hanging around with the Pope. It was mad. We're meant to be at a football tournament here. We're like, will we train today? No, the fucking Pope. Should the Pope's knocking about there? He's doing nothing. Why don't we go up and say hello to him?
Was that just because you got to go to Rome for a game against Italy? Or you decided to call into the Pope's gap?
Some priest from Carlo made a phone call and said, listen, the lads are over there. Would you meet them?
Yeah, it was Morris Setters was deeply religious. And he wanted to go see the Pope. And Big Jack Charlton said that's a great idea. I bet you didn't know at that stage that he was the man who oversaw the largest paedophile ring across the globe at that stage. So it's like,
Jesus, Phil, you're bashing them out of the park tonight, aren't you?
They knew them what they know now. They mightn't have done it, but
I think they would have, because it was a brilliant opportunity to show off the amazing tracksuits they had, which worked by far.
They were beautiful.
They were the best tracksuits I've ever seen.
Yeah, the white top, the green tracksuit bottoms.
Ray, can I ask you a question?
Well.
Right. So we're all talking about Ireland and Romania and Italy and stuff like that. How are England progressing in this? Because although we played them in the first game, we were locked after that. So we don't even know what happened. You know what I mean? I think we are probably just coming around out of that comatose state by the time England play in the semi-final against the Germans.
Yeah.
What were England like in that tournament? Because I remember them against Ireland and I wasn't impressed. They draw with England or with Holland. They narrowly beat Egypt with a header. Who did he get in the next round?
So it's Belgium in the next round, and that's when the excitement, I guess, starts. And the expectation levels really start to come up. I mean, I was 14 at that World Cup.
And you were English, not Scouse at this stage.
I was English, not Scouse for that particular month. From the 8th of June to the 8th of July. And yeah, they had Belgium, and by that stage, they also knew that if they were to see, this is the way the England mindset works. They already know if they beat Belgium, they have Cameroon in the quarterfinals. So they're already, there's already a good contingent rubbing the hands at the prospect of getting through to the semi-final, because at that stage for a load of people, it's a done deal. And again, they're not great in that game against Belgium, and it obviously goes to it goes to extra time, and it's looking like it's heading to penalties, and obviously David Platt scores that volley over his the ball comes over his shoulder and he scores that volley, and then it's a minute away from a penalty shootout, and England are through, and then expectations go through the roof, and it's on to a quarter final.
And can I ask you, Ray? Sorry, Phil. Can I ask you, Ray? It goes on to a quarter final, and it's Cameroon, and this is another bizarre game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cameroon lads are just not letting up on the madness.
Yeah. It was. It was. But there was still a confidence that England were, far superior and far sort of wiser to get caught up in that sort of madness. But sure enough, they do get caught up in the madness. You know what I mean? They go through 3-2 ultimately, but it's a mad game. It really is a mad game. And look, I mean, they were the story of the tournament, Cameroon, and I remember watching that game. and almost feeling a bit sorry for Cameroon at that stage, because they did, they basically sort of picked up that tournament because there was a lot of dire stuff being played, and it was a bit sad to see them go out at the end of the day.
Like in that game, they're 2-1 up with 7 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Penalties then.
Lineker scores on 83, and then he scores just on half time in extra time as well. Like,
but they were harsh penalties, I think. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling they were.
I think one of them was a stonewaller.
Yeah, but it was England, so I'm thinking it was a dodgy one. No offence, Ray.
Yeah.
Would VAR have given them? That's the benchmark now, isn't it?
Well, Cameroon, everyone loved Cameroon, so they wouldn't have got them in the VAR. I'd like to think they'd have been given the benefit of the doubt.
Well, we went out of the competition on the 30th of June, right? We played on the 30th of June, and a day later, England have beaten Cameroon. I can guarantee half of Ireland are still in green jerseys with Cameroon written on it in marker, and they're in the pubs, and they're like, "Yeah, we're Cameroon now, lads." I remember that Cameroon in the game. I thought it was bizarre, but it was brilliant.
Right, no one has asked you about it though. Like Gascoigne, he's the fulcrum of that team. He's the fulcrum of it's everything that beats in that England team. And the reason why they don't beat Germany is what happens in the quarterfinals. Like, he's not in the game against Germany. Like the tears, the infamous tears, the episode that means he's out of that seminal comes around. But he drives. It's his delivery for pass against Belgium.
No,
like that
he's
ball,
booked in the semi. Means he won't play in the final.
Yeah, no, he's booked in the semi, but his head's gone. His head's gone in that semi-final when he gets booked.
But Gascoigne was a great influence, and Platt as well, who would come in from the cold. Platt only had like 5 caps before this, and he came in, he scored against Belgium, so he's on a run. So the older guard were maybe taking a back step behind Platt and Gascoigne, although Platt was more of an impact sub. But Gaza was just amazing. He was the driving force of that team back then.
But that's after Robson has changed the way they play, because if you remember, they go to a 3-5-2 system so that Mark Wright can play as a Roman centre half almost. And you've got Paul Parker rampaging down as a right wing back. That's before he goes. He's at QPR. England's biggest unfortunate situation is that Seaman gets injured before that World Cup, and they end up playing with Peter Shilton as their number one. Because when it boils down to it, Shilton is just dog awful. Like, if you look at the goals conceded, he's on his knees and he can't even get off the ground. Like, he would have
been the keeper in that, and anyway, I think he would have been the keeper.
I don't know. He's 40 years of age.
40, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's 40 years of age. I mean, his last international game is that 3rd and 4th place.
Seaman broke his finger, didn't he?
Did you?
Yeah. Besant was brought in to replace him.
I remember the BBC showing a game Peter Shilton was in for Leyton Orient because it was his last ever game, and it was mad. It was mad. Like, it was like when you play Football Manager and you can slow it down to slower than normal speed. Yeah. And the other team wouldn't shoot at him out of respect and all. I'm nearly sure it was for Leyton Orient. And there was a special screen of it. There was loads of balloons on the pitch. I remember that much.
He was all this shit in this game. So
if you watch the goals, when you watch the goals, you can see it's like, even the Kevin Sheedy goal, it's like he can't dive anymore. His legs literally can't. He can't. He was on negative dives. He was like Mignolet on reverse steroids.
It's the one in the semi-final where it's just under his bar, but he's nearly lying down while he's trying to get it. Is that the one?
Yeah. Do you remember?
There's a shot taken. It's under his bar. So just
it was 6 foot high.
And he's
6 foot high, and he's lying on the ground trying to reach up and grab it because he's so tired.
He just waved the newspaper at her or something. It was mad. Like, semi-final, like, that's awful stuff.
It took
to replace him with Dave Besant is a fucking disgrace as well.
Did take a deflection, to be fair, but like, it was even at that. Must be heartbreaking, is it? I imagine that was as close as you got.
It was heartbreaking. I was absolutely devastated, like the rest of the country was at that time.
You weren't as devastated as the fans that were in the stadium the night that we scored the equaliser with Kevin Sheedy, because I was in with all the English fans, and it was great watching us. It really was, because you spent the whole time. There was a little cluster of Irish fans. We were with Leo Bordock and his wife, right? And
the fella from the chipper.
The fella who owns the chipper, right?
No way.
And I swear to God, she's a great voice.
Is he not Italian? No.
No. That's his cousin.
Oh, Nick.
Nick, yeah. Toto.
But right, we were standing there when we were standing there, like they'd scored and they'd spent the whole time. There's about fucking 20,000 of them standing there and going, "Let's go have a disco," because that was the favourite of the English at that stage. Right? They're all wearing fisherman hats and it was "Let's go have a disco" all the time, right? Yeah. And they're all pointing over, going, "Knock your face in! You're going to punch it! We're sending you home in an ambulance!" All this type of stuff, right? Then Sheedy scores, and there was this mad Donegal drunken fella who was behind us, and he stands up and he goes, "You're not singing." Like the sound. Hit that from nowhere. There was about 40 riot police just descended around us like this and put a cordon off.
But come here, can I ask you a question?
Just made the Donegal fella even more.
Can I ask you a question? Because, like, when I look back at Italia 90, or from what I can remember of it, I always have this romantic view that there was millions of Irish at it, and we took over the place and stuff like that. And was it like that when Ireland play England? I know we're shooting right back to the start again, but when Ireland play England and you're in the ground, what's the split? Is Ireland really kind of like feel like the away team?
No. Honestly, Gav, it's like they got tickets from everywhere, right? I'd say we were in Cagliari Stadium. And I think it was like, say it was a 45, 50,000 seater for what had been brought up for the World Cup thing, right? And we're in the English end, so we're sort of, in a way, I'm also lucky because I'm looking down at where the Irish fans are, so you can see how far they come up the stadium. You know what I mean? Like when you're looking at it, we're in this end is the goal that say Shilton's in that Ireland are playing into the second half, and this is all the English, and the English go about, I'd say, a third of the way around that curve, and from there it's just green. Right. And when they start singing, like the English start singing the national anthem, and the Irish let them sing the national anthem at the start. When they start to try and sing it again, it was never heard. Even when they were singing it around us, as soon as the Irish fans piped up, it was just drowned out. It was unbelievable. There was Irish everywhere, and there was Irish outside the stadium, and like the police were trying to keep it, segregated and stuff. They hadn't a clue because the Irish lads were walking up to them and asking, "Can they swap hats?" And I'm not talking about the English fellas. I'm talking about the coppers. They're saying, "Can we swap hats with you? Here's our Irish jersey. Can we have your T-shirt? Can we have your baton? Can we have your badge?" So, back in the hotel after the game, honestly, back in the hotel, so all the lads are getting through. Now, I'm 14, so my dad's sending me around with more or less his lounge boy. I'm lighting cigarettes for fellas and everything. And he goes, "Do you know how to smoke it?" No. He says, "Right, you put this in your mouth and you just inhale it." He says, "You're not to smoke it now, just do it until it's red at the end and then you give it back."
Yeah.
Right? And
I don't think that's allowed.
It's not now. And this is what's going on. And then basically the police lads decide that they're going to have a drinking competition with the Irish lads, right? And they lose. And not only lose, they go home in Irish kit, and the Irish lads are all dressed up as police officers in full Italian police officers, hats, badges, the belts. The police took their guns with them, but left them with the holsters and everything. It was insane.
The semi-finals, Ray, are England, Germany, and Argentina, Italy.
Yeah,
I can't remember the Argentina-Italy game.
They're actually, funny enough, they're actually identical. They're both 1-1 draws. They both go to penalties. They both end up with 4-3 victories on penalties. And I didn't appreciate and realise until I watched that Maradona documentary a week or so ago around the whole context of that Argentina-Italy game and the fact that it was in Naples, which seems bizarre, really, why there wouldn't be a semi-final in Rome with the host country. The way you structure the tournament, you have a semi-final, which you assume the host country goes.
Where was England and Germany played?
It was played in Turin, so there was no semi-final in Rome, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It was obviously down to whatever stadiums have been upgraded the most. I don't think I'm not too sure if they've ever had a host nation play all the games in the one ground, have they?
No.
I think it might be a rule where you have to move around.
Okay, so that's the game, and obviously, just as fate would have it, Argentina land in that stadium with Italy in a semi-final, and obviously Maradona is trying to kind of call upon the locals to turn and revolt on their own country and support Argentina in that, and obviously he has he has a big role to play in terms of the scoring what is Argentina's fourth and decisive penalty in the shootout. I mean, just watching it. Did anyone else watch that documentary a week or so ago? Did you appreciate the context around that, Gav?
Yeah, I watched it. I appreciate the context around it. Like, but the overriding thing, just to get away from this World Cup and go back onto Maradona, is what a mad life that fella has.
Oh yeah.
You know? Like, and you even see like he all right, the stuff in Barcelona, and then they're like, we've no intention of selling Diego Maradona, and then he just starts punching the head off Bilbao players for the crack and ninja kicking them, right? And then he goes to Napoli and he just turns around and goes, Barcelona weren't treating me right anyway, you know, he didn't give a shit. Yeah. But Napoli are shy. How he's ended up there. He's walking into the ground and there's big weeds growing, they're taller than him at the back of the stadium. And like, when does he sign for Napoli? 87? 84, and the ground is in rag order, like, and they're one of the poorest cities in Italy, and here they are signing this fella for mad amount of money. And when you watch, it is mad, like, because he wins the World Cup, right, and he rings home to his mother, you know, and she's talking to him like he's a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, thanks, man, and she's like, well done, you know, and make sure you say your prayers tonight and all mad stuff. And then he's off riding Mott's and all, and they're saying it's your kid, and he's saying it's not, and all. He's just denying it. And look, mad life, absolutely mad life, but an absolute genius of a footballer. Like, some of the stuff you see him do, the abuse he takes physically on a football pitch, I don't think it'll ever be matched. Now I know you can go back to the 50s and 60s, and you can probably Pele probably got bashed around in the 60s and early 70s, but Maradona was just kicked from pillar to post, and how he survived it, how he actually kept at his peak probably till around 89, 90 is a testament to him, because he was fucking assaulted weekly, you know.
I mean, you've got to remember, he's played less than 500 professional.
I'm not surprised, Phil.
9-1, yeah.
But if you most games you look at him, you go, the amount of fouls and the amount of aggression physically against him. You know, you have Wilfred Zaha going round and he gets tackled once in every fortnight, and there's a big thing on Sky Sports about him. Maradona was getting upended, like, minute after minute after minute.
You just see the footage of him getting butchered in Spain, absolutely murdered for playing for Barcelona.
You see him going by, fellas, right? And they're not trying to shoulder him, they're not trying to nick the ball, they're trying to hurt him. Every fella he goes by is trying to fucking hurt him. A genius of a fella, but an absolute madman, and it shows towards the end of this tournament, and it shows further on then down the line. He doesn't play football for 2 years after this tournament, I don't think, or 15 months.
You know what? It was a marriage made in heaven for him to go somewhere like Napoli, because they sort of indulged him and they let him do whatever he wanted nearly. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're coming off the back of Barcelona and he got the shy kicked out of him. Where can you go? Serie A was the place to be back then, you know what I mean? 84, you're talking like Platini, you know, playing for Juventus back then. Like, it really was the top draw. And to go there and to go somewhere that he could have that little bit of rope, you know what I mean, that they let him do, they built the team around him.
It was like a revolution. Led by a revolutionary. That's what it was like, because if you look at the footage, you see them, like, the fans in the stadium are shouting like, Napoli is all have fucking syphilis and all sorts of stuff, and, you know, mad stuff, like, where, you know, they just anyone up that end, like Milan, Juventus, anyone up, you know, up the top end of Italy and the top end of Serie A, just spat on Napoli as if to say, you think of this, you're absolute knackers, like, you know what I mean? You're scum, you live in slums, and Maradona turning up, they were kind of going, we shouldn't really have him because we don't have a bleeding pot to piss in, but he's here, and we're going to make him the best thing we've ever seen. And I like, going on about Maradona, I watched that, and I always remember the game Maradona playing for Napoli against AC Milan, and they win it 3-1. And I'm nearly sure it might clinch a title for them, I'm not too sure. But he clinched a title, and I remember him and another fella playing up front, and I must go back and look at it, because I always thought Naples just looks mental, and it suited him down to the ground. It absolutely did.
Could have been Correca. Correca was a striker.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, I mean, he's managing a side at the moment.
Gimnasio de la Plata.
Yeah, and I managed to see some of their game a few weeks ago, and like he seemed, I'm sure he was sitting on the sidelines, on the bench, but he seemed to be sitting in some kind of specially made throne with.
Is that where he was taking the drugs and the lads were jumping up off the?
The lads all surrounded him, didn't they?
Yeah, no. The best was the fella comes over, right, and then they turn around, and next of all, it's like a coach turns and looks at him, and then goes, "Oh, hold on, I'll say something tactical," and jumps up in front of the camera, pretending to say something tactical onto the pitch. Well, you know, they're delivering Maradona is 3-1. You know, it was mad. Like.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, he seems to have this kind of throne. I presume it's to do with probably the fact that his body's in rag order, but yeah, he doesn't sit on a conventional bench like anyone else.
Come on, his body's in rag order. He's turned up there and went, "I want the throne."
Yeah.
And they went, "Well, listen, we're giving you mad money. I want the fucking throne or I'm going home. Or I get total Scalacci after you." And they went, "Right, grand, order him a throne." You know what I mean? So
but it's mad when you say, like, at Napoli, he went into Napoli, he won 2 Serie A's and he won the UEFA Cup. Yeah. He won the Italian Cup as well in there. And I'm just checking, I don't think Napoli won anything else in their fucking career. I won very little in their roll of honours.
No, they haven't.
They won 5 Coppa Italias, and one of them was with him. So that's all they've won is 4 other Coppa Italias in their history without Maradona. Like, literally, to go in, it's hard to even compare. It's like Messi going to bleeding Stoke and bringing them to European finals and all that. You know, it's absolutely outrageous what he done to go in there and do that. Like, doesn't get the credit. But going back to the World Cup side of it, he really did have that stadium on strings, and the Italians didn't really know how to react to it. I was only listening to a Galazzo about it a while ago, and they were saying, you know, it was a real weird, surreal feeling that you had a stadium in Italy, and of all the matches to land in, as someone just said there, it's fucking Argentina and Italy, and it's Maradona, and the home team, in effect, aren't the home team. You know, it was a crazy situation.
It's such a pity that, you know, you don't get to see Maradona in the modern game because of his ability level, where he wasn't being butchered in every single match. Will be like, I've said before.
I'd say the same about John Barnes. I always say the same about him.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at them, you just wonder how many goals would they score in the modern day, because they wouldn't have been butchered the way they were back then, and they still scored a lot of goals, but nowhere near what the lads. But like, we're talking about players who would probably surpass what Messi and Ronaldo have been able to do, because their skill levels for that point in the game were already off the chart. They're taking the game onto a different level, and like, there's always this argument who's the greatest of all. Like, my favourite player ever to watch, and it's probably the closest I've got to see somebody play like Maradona, and that's Ronaldinho. I know people talk about Messi, right? But Ronaldinho, the way he played was to bring enjoyment to people. Messi plays to win, right? But Ronaldinho played to bring enjoyment to people and to win through that enjoyment. And that's what Maradona was like, when the way he played for Napoli. And that's the way Maradona played football. He played to bring enjoyment to the fans that were at the game, and was willing to do things that he didn't have to do, but just made the game look better and be better.
Phil, you're talking about a guy here, Phil. You're talking about a guy who absolutely got butchered again in games, and just got up and smiled.
Yeah,
never rolled around. Just got up and got on with it. It was unbelievable, and I'm like you that way. Probably one of my favourite players of all time.
I always said about John Barnes, for the simple reason is, when you talk to anyone that played with or against John Barnes, not England fans, because England fans treat him awfully, and you know, he was the best player in the world for me. 87, 88, that's just my opinion. I think he was just that good. Now, people would say Maradona. I just think John Barnes was just, to me, blew my mind. But if you listen to anyone that played with him or played against him, you weren't going to take the ball off him very easy because he didn't give it to you. You weren't going to knock him off the ball because he was built like a fucking brick shithouse, you know what I mean? The only way you could do him was to absolutely side him down. And you're all right what you say. When Maradona in today's game, he'd probably do what Messi's doing. Probably, yeah, he probably would. But I tell you, John Barnes would probably do what the likes of Ronaldo's doing as well, because how do you stop him? He's so quick, he's so strong, he's skilled, he has vision, he can head the ball. Like, people talk about Ronaldo heading the ball. John Barnes was a fucking unbelievable header of the ball. An unbelievable header of the ball. And go back and look at, I think it's 89-90 when Liverpool win the title. John Barnes plays up front for the majority of the season. He plays up front. And he's brilliant. So, I know we've gone off the World Cup and all, but there is certain players of a certain ilk around that time, i.e. Maradona and John Barnes, that if you put them in today's game, they'd blow your mind as much as Messi and Ronaldo did, in my opinion.
Well, we're on about John Barnes, and if we move back to the World Cup, I noticed there, I'm looking at the teams, John Barnes doesn't play in the semi-final. He goes off half-time, roughly, in the quarters. Did he pick up an injury or anything in that, do you know, right?
I can't remember. Maybe
he went off at half-time against Cameroon, and he doesn't play then.
Seemed logical that maybe he did pick something up. I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, he was not even on the bench.
But you do have to remember, as Gav says, he was very underappreciated by the England fans. I don't know if part of that. Well, obviously, there's possibly race involved, but there's also the fact that he played for Liverpool as well, and obviously Liverpool players, when they went to play for their country at that time, didn't necessarily get the easiest ride. So there was probably a number of factors in that. He seemed to be. I seem to recall, when he first burst onto the scene and he was playing for Watford still, and he was playing for England. There was an appreciation of, isn't this a fantastic player? And then obviously he gets his move to Liverpool, and like a lot of Liverpool players down the years, there just doesn't seem to be that kind of appreciation and connection when they play for England.
Yeah. Does the goal at the Maracanã, does the goal against Brazil in the Maracanã go against them? Nearly set such a high standard, and then they just hold them to that. The England fans don't give them a break.
I don't think the management do them any favours, because if you look at Liverpool 87-88, right, you've Beardsley, Barnes and Aldridge, right? Now, England should have went into that 1990 or 88 tournament and went, listen, we have Lineker. We're just going to swap Lineker for Aldridge, and we're going to play Beardsley and Barnes. And that's what we're going to do. And it was a real case of an anti-Liverpool sort of thing at the time, because they were so fucking good that, we're not going to do it the same as them. Instead of just standing up and going, they're the fucking best at what they do. We have a striker that's arguably better than John Aldridge, right, at goal scoring and in around the box. England should have mauled that fucking tournament in 1990 by just literally giving the ball to John Barnes and going, listen, you just get it out of your feet and put it in the box there, and Lineker's guaranteed to be in on the end of it. 9 times out of 10 he'll get a chance. But he didn't.
The thing that jumps out though, Gav, is, and people forget, that there's only 3 Liverpool players in that England squad. Yet they were the champions of England.
Yeah, but when you go
dominantly English,
I know you had your sprinkling of Scottish players and Irish players back then, but it wasn't like the Germans were fully prepared to stick 7 or 8 Bayern Munich players in the team. England weren't that way inclined. It seemed to be that players, Tottenham players or Arsenal players, London-based players were actually favoured over and above the likes of Liverpool players.
Steve McMahon doesn't get a sniff really in the World Cup. He's on the bench for a few of the games, but he's not in the team. Yeah, well, there wasn't many English. When you think back to that team, there wasn't many English. There was a lot of Irish and Scots, really, wasn't there?
Yeah, but you take there was 3 Liverpool players in the Ireland squad.
Yeah.
Right.
Although just got moved to Sociedad, didn't he, Phil?
Yeah. Yeah. So he would have been 4 had he not gone to Sociedad, because that's 1990. But we've got Houghton, we've got Whelan, we've got Staunton. Yeah. Hansen isn't taken by Scotland to the World Cup, and that's the second World Cup in a row he's missed. So he misses 86.
But was that a fallout? Was that a fallout with somebody over Hansen?
I think there was a fallout after the 86 World Cup.
Right, Ferguson didn't bring him to the 86, didn't he?
Wasn't Roxburgh Ferguson's assistant at the time? Left him. And I think Hansen needed knee surgery, because Hansen, I think, only plays 6 games ever again after the 1990s. After
Liverpool win the title,
Yeah, he goes off, gets knee surgery, and never plays again after that. Well, plays 6 games and never plays again after that. And he's 34 as well at the time. But you're looking at it and you're saying, right, so who's left then for, like, I'm often thinking about, if you've got Beardsley, you've Barnes, and you've got McMahon in the England squad, and you've Houghton, you've Whelan, and you've Staunton in the thing. That means that when you look at what was left in the Liverpool squad, even despite being champions of England, they were deemed not to be good enough to go to the World Cup, which is mental.
Well, Grobner was your goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So he's not English. And then if you look through the rest of the side, Nicholas Scottish as well.
Gary Gillespie Scottish.
Gillespie goes.
You know,
Nicholl doesn't.
You know, it's I wouldn't look at the amount of people in the Liverpool squad as opposed to the English squad, because I think Liverpool built it slightly differently. But I just couldn't get my head around the fact that, you know, thinking back to '88, I don't think Beardsley starts the '88 tournament, does he? I think he comes on as a sub against Ireland in the first game. No, I mean in '88 at Stuttgart, I don't think Beardsley starts that game. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling he doesn't, and he might come on as a sub. But
Beardsley and Lineker had the great connection in the '86 World Cup, and then he'd fallen out of favour by the time we got around to the '88 European Championships.
Yeah, but and then he falls out of favour is beyond me. He's after playing in probably one of the best club sides you've seen in '87, '88, and this is what I can like. Don't get me wrong, pick your goalkeeper, like you were saying about Seaman and Shilton. Your back four, pick who you like. But literally, if you want to be a sure thing, you just go Barnes, Beardsley, Lineker. And all right, there might have been a preference there for the likes of Chris Waddle. I know Chris Waddle was in favour. Platt comes on later on in the tournament and proves himself for England and stuff like that. But I think there was an ignorance there from England, and I think I might have hurt them in the end. You know, you have Gascoigne, who's a brilliant. He's 19 or 20 at the time, and he's a brilliant talent. But when you look at what England should have done, and I don't know if Ray agrees with this, but Ray, surely are you looking at that England team at that time? Although they are in a semi-final against West Germany, are you not looking going, they should be just playing these three lads all the time, because they've done it week in, week out. All right, Aldridge for Lineker, you know, but these have done it in a club side week in, week out for how many years?
I mean, as I say, it's international football's funny, isn't it? You know, managers get their favourites, and they get very loyal to people very quickly, and sometimes that comes at the cost of what is the most logical, you know, choice in terms of what's being played at club level. So, you know, you even see this now in the modern day. It's a phenomenon that sort of rings true. So, you know. Look, England did have a great opportunity there. Obviously, West Germany, they go on and win the tournament. You know, they you know, I don't think it's a memorable final. It's a 1-0 win. It's an 85th minute penalty that ultimately wins the World Cup for West Germany. But I think, you know, England at that time definitely had the opportunity to win that tournament. And I think, you know, at the end of it, everyone was fairly happy and satisfied, and there was almost a sense of overachievement by getting to the semi-final. And Bobby Robson became, you know, this much-loved figure who he turned out to be, which he hadn't been up until that point. You know, he was on his way to being, you know, another what was in later years, you know, sort of a ridiculed kind of Graham Taylor type character. You know, he really was on that path until that tournament, but. Look, I mean, it did have so many memories. Just back to you guys. I mean, had Ireland sobered up by the final, or were you still?
Ireland were still.
We were still on the lash, because Ireland, like if you remember right, Ireland get beaten by Italy, right, and the Italians after beating us have qualified for a World Cup semi-final, and most of them leave the ground, and Ireland fans are still down at one of the ends of the ground on the curve there. And there's fucking thousands and thousands of them. And there is Italians in the crowd with their Italian flags, but they're saluting Ireland, and Charlton's there leading it all. You know, he's not leading it all. That's probably the wrong thing, because he did kind of take a back seat when it came to these kind of big things. And I remember him against Romania, like, he's an Englishman that's won the World Cup in '66 as a player, but for me, the 1990 World Cup will probably go down as the biggest thing in his footballing career. When they have the penalty shooter, you can see him leaning on the dugout, and you can see his hands are shaking, his whole body is shaking, and he's using the dugout to lean on to try steady himself. You know, it's
probably coming for a smoke.
It's probably coming for a smoke, but I think it will go down as the biggest thing in his football career. I know he's won a World Cup as a player, but what he done with Ireland, I think he turned up in Ireland, and I don't think he knew he was going to be accepted. You know, like you have to remember, he turns up in '86.
At that time,
there's a lot of conflict between Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the UK, and he turns up as an Englishman, and he's so English when you look at him and you listen to him. He's so English, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's his humour or the way he carries himself, but he fits in with Ireland. Not immediately, to be honest, but he gets them to 88, and then when he gets them to 90, it's like, this guy is Irish. There's no fucking doubts about it.
Was Giles overlooked for that job at the time? Was Giles in the shake-up for it?
I think Giles might have done a caretaker role at some stage.
He done caretaker.
He wanted it, and then he didn't get it, and I think
it got down to a 3-man shortlist, I think, if I remember right, and Charlton ended up getting it. But you know, going back to 1990, Ray, and you're asking me to sober up, like, most teams would go, we got to the quarterfinal, that was great. You should have seen this fucking place when you were coming home. You couldn't get to the airport. You couldn't get to the airport, Ray. You couldn't get into the airport, right? They were on the runway when these boys were landing. They were on the runway. They got on a bus from, I think, Dublin Airport to the city centre. All of Ireland was there, right? Jack Charlton gets up on stage, takes a pint of Guinness, and he's fucking having the crack. Do you know what I mean? And he's literally an honorary Irishman from then. The Irish people absolutely adore that man, and I mean, an adoration I haven't seen for another person that's not from Ireland before by Irish people. I genuinely mean that. He was adored, and when the, like, skipping forward a little bit, they get beaten in the qualifiers for the Euro 96 at Anfield by Holland. Kluivert scores that night, and it was one of the saddest moments in football for me, watching him having to walk away. You know, knowing that would be it for him. You know, it was a really, really sad time to see that man be that. He was genuinely upset. And when you go back, and I think the other thing that endeared him to the Irish public was 1990, absolutely. You know, they miss out on 92. He gets to 94, and then the whole Lansdowne Road thing against England in 95. And he's on the pitch basically telling people, get off the pitch or I'll punch the head off you. You know what I mean? He's throwing slaps at fellas and all. Ray, you've no idea how that man... is Jack Charlton still alive?
Yeah.
That's a genuine question. Jack Charlton at this stage must be... Is he in his 80s? And I'd say he's easy in his 80s. But I genuinely believe... When it comes to the day that man is no longer with us, there'll be days of mourning in Ireland, and that's how much he's held in, the esteem he's held in this country, right? That's genuine.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's you know, he's an Englishman who comes to Ireland at a time that doesn't make any sense in terms of being accepted, and what you say is kind of, it's true of a few scenarios, isn't it? And I think almost bringing it back to the modern day, it's almost like, you know, the connection that the Liverpool fans now have with Jurgen Klopp, you know, it's like, it's a match that's made, you know, in heaven almost. He gets the whole, you know, the whole fabric of people from Liverpool, what it means to them.
Klopp's marriage is a lot easier to become made 100%. In heaven than Charlton's. You know, Charlton turns up to a team. Charlton turns up to a team that are brutal. The public, although they go and watch them, don't really believe in them. They have a man coming in here now that's a big English man in a time of massive troubles in Ireland. And I don't know how he does it. He doesn't set out to do anything, from what I can make out. He just turns up. He's very, very blunt in what he says, and he's very, very blunt in what he does. And I think people like that about him. You know, if you go back and watch the qualifiers for the 1990 World Cup, there's probably a video on YouTube. It's probably about an hour and 40, 50 minutes long. And you see him doing interviews after games. And he's so blunt. And he would remind you a little bit of Klopp, the way Klopp just comes out and says it. He doesn't try to hide that from you. And what a man. What a man. Like.
But do you know what I'd say there? There's a huge difference with him and Klopp in the sense that Jack Charlton's marriage was mainly with the Irish fans. A lot of the players were very, very sceptical and reluctant under Charlton in that team. It was a very good team back then. I was at a meet and greet thing with Kevin Moore in there a few months ago, and I asked him, like, what was it like for the players in the squad at Italia 90 and Euro 88 and all these things under Charlton? And he said a lot of the players didn't like, they felt they were much better than the way Charlton was playing them. He felt that he had a style of play that was effective but that the players themselves, and we fell out with Liam Brady, did he? Euro 88, did Brady go to 88 and then didn't get picked for 90 or something like that?
Fell out with Ronnie Whelan in 90 as well,
Ronnie Whelan and Aldridge were two big ones, because Ronnie Whelan...
A lot of players,
Ronnie Whelan was being told to hook balls into channels, and John Aldridge was being asked to chase them. And Ronnie Whelan at Liverpool was getting the ball down and playing it, and Aldridge was sniffing around the 6-yard box for goals. And now he was being asked to run channels, hold the ball up, lay it back to a full-back and lash it in a box for Frank Stapleton to jump up and head it. Do you know what the best thing about the World Cup was? The best thing about the World Cup was, right? If you go and look up Frank Stapleton's permanent TSB ad, right? So the boys qualify for the World Cup, right? And they're big lads now, like that. They're making the few quid now, right? And Frank Stapleton does an ad for the permanent TSB. Now, I'm saying permanent TSB. He says permanent TSB. And until this day, you know, there's a crowd called Après Match that take off all these people.
Irish permanent.
And Irish permanent, or whatever it was. Irish permanent. It's permanent TSB now, isn't it?
It's the Irish permanent,
Irish permanent, right? And they're still mocking him to this day. And he used to sit there going, Irish, and he really elongates every T he says, simply because he got a few quid off the permanent TSB. Mad stuff went on around that World Cup. I met the lads before they went out to the World Cup, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, the whole team, yeah. But, a neighbour of mine she worked in the kitchen, you know, up in the airport, you know, the airport hotel. It was known then. It's probably a Maldron hotel or something now. But she worked there, and she managed to get me to meet them just before they went off to the World Cup. Had dinner with them and all. The whole lot, yeah. Sound lads.
We used to go.
So that's what happened.
All the training sessions in around then. Like, I'm from Ringsend, so we lived in the shadow of Lansdowne Road. And like my man, my aunts and all, would be coming into the school. Can I take such and such and such and such? She'd be in getting me, my brother, and my cousins and all. Would be getting let out early to go to training, and she'd be picking other kids, you know, from the flats. It'd be about 20. If she'd done it now, she'd be bleeding dragged before the courts. She'd be taking 20 kids out of school, and we go to all the Ireland training sessions and all. What was his name? The assistant manager. Mick Bourne.
Big Bourne, eh?
No, Mick Bourne, he was a good friend of my gran and all. So when we go up there, they'd be mooching in and having a chat. So yeah, it was very accessible back then. There's a big difference to what it is now. Like, you just literally walk up to Lansdowne Inn, watch them training at the side of the pitch, having a chat, photos, autographs, everything. Like, it was a different time altogether.
Massive difference. So this is
who won the World Cup in 1990?
It was West Germany.
Yeah, no, just making sure, because
right. I know you want to get onto the final, but there's no point.
No, I'm not going to discuss the final. I was more intrigued as to how Ireland was reacting at that time.
The final was terrible, right? And the actual final was Germany and England. Like that was the culmination. It was the best game of the semi-finals and the final. It was end to end. It was dramatic. It had everything going on, and then you get the penalty shootout, and you get the tears of Pearce, and you get the worst penalty ever taken until Jaap Stam hit a penalty for the Dutch in the semi-final.
Until Charlie Adam hit one in the League Cup final.
Those balls are all still in orbit, in low Earth orbit, currently knocking
Chris Waddle.
Internet satellites out of the place and everything it is. Yeah,
Chris Waddle nearly got a beaut in that game, didn't he? From about the halfway line, he had a shot, and it wasn't a loopy effort. It was a blatant drilled shot that I think Ilna might have tipped over or might hit the crossbar.
What I couldn't get with Chris Waddle was, I understand Pearce, because that's what Pearce done. He just lashed her in the net. But what I couldn't understand, Chris Waddle was a fantastic footballer with great technique. I can't understand
his hair,
and I just couldn't understand why he was trying to lash a ball in the top corner in 12 yards.
He still has his hair.
Have you seen him now? Have you seen him now?
God. Oh my God!
Go and look up a recent photo of Chris Waddle, and I think I seen someone the other day saying someone needs to tell this fella he's 60. It's like he has the sides and back of his head shaved, but he's let the top of it grow, and he has it all. Oh, it's mad. Go and look at anyone that's listening.
It's like if Nilo was 60, basically.
Yeah, it is. Well, Neil's never making 60. You're fucking joking me.
To be fair, though, you say about the England's West Germany game. To be honest, in my mind, and probably in a lot of England's fans' minds, that's eclipsed really by the Euro '96 semi-final and what happens there. The whole football's coming home and all that sort of malarkey, and Gaza being, so close to putting that, what would have been, I think, a golden goal at the time, in extra time. I mean, that for me was far more painful than the Italia 90, because there wasn't really the expectation that England were going to do it so much. Whereas in Euro 96,
I don't agree, Ray, because I remember 1990, and I remember watching BBC, and as they went through with that David Platt goal against Belgium, the turnaround against Cameroon, and then the performance against Germany, they honestly believed going into that penalty shootout that their names was on the final. You know,
and when you say it was the best game from the semi-final on, it is true, but it was also the one that had, I wouldn't say the least amount of pressure on it, but Italy and Argentina had their own, Italy had a host, Argentina then have the Maradona factor, you know what I mean? So they were much, I'd say, less free-flowing in their style of play than England, Germany, and you could see it in the matches themselves, like you could see the pressure in one compared to...
I will say one thing, Keith. I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to leave the call because I need to go to my bed. But
you're not staying for the quiz, Phil.
Fucking quiz,
Phil.
No, because
Phil.
I know, yeah. Don't really care.
Go mad in the morning when he misses the quiz.
I'll listen back for the quiz. But
there is a listener. Go on.
The one thing that jumped out is that this is the birth of the English commentators' hate of diving, right? Jürgen Klinsmann invents the hate of diving that to this day has remained in every single English tabloid and English journalist's lexicon when it comes to it, because it's this 1990 World Cup that starts the wave of hatred for diving. Up until then, it was just the dark arts. This is the diving, and the dive bomber
took it to a new place, didn't he? Like some of the blade theatrics. Yeah. Kenichi had done it as well, but in fairness, he was getting laden up by Benjamin Messing for Cameroon.
The three takeaways from this World Cup: they got rid of the back pass rule, right? They decided that actually now 3 points for a win is a good thing and not 2 points for a win, because everyone ends up just wanting to draw matches all the time. And diving, and Pavarotti, and I want to hear
best World Cup ever.
Beginning of the end for Pavarotti.
Yeah, shadows on pitches.
Peak,
what was the name of the song again?
Nessun Dorma.
I'll stick that on the front of the on the start and intro of this pod, and then we get sued, and then we'll all go ha ha ha. Do you remember? Do you remember that time we had a podcast but Pavarotti lost his bollocks on it? So we
messed it up in the middle of the coronavirus anyway.
Yeah. It all fell apart when Pavarotti heard us doing that podcast about Italia 90.
Right, look, we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap the review of Italia 90 up, but we are going to finish things up with a quiz. I've got together 10 questions.
Okay.
There's multiple points for a couple of questions towards the back end.
Okay.
I have got a tiebreaker ready.
Okay.
He's going to take. What you need to do is you need to take a note of your answers, and then we'll come. So pen and paper or iPad or iPhone at the ready. We start off with a few multiple choices, and then we'll go into some free-flowing questions then, yeah?
Yeah, I have my phone ready with my notes open.
Right.
See you later, Phil. Love you. Right, go, Ray.
Right, okay. So we're down to the threes. Okay, right. Question number 1. Italia 90 was the lowest score in World Cup. How many goals were actually scored at the tournament? Was it 95? Was it A, 95, B, 105, or C, 115?
Can we have a minute to think about that? Because I'm trying to work out how many games there was.
And don't start googling and all that.
No googling, yeah.
Okay. What was the last one, right?
Yeah, what was the?
It was either A, 95, B, 105, or C, 115. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Question number 2.
Yeah.
At that particular time, it was also the tournament with the most red cards.
Mm-hmm.
How many red cards were there? Was it A, 16, B, 18, or C, 20?
Jeez, you haven't left much for. Keith will know all these. He reads up on everything before the pods.
I don't know. You don't.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was Italia 90.
Mm-hmm.
But which was the other country which got to the last two for hosting the 1990 World Cup?
Yep.
Was it A, England, B, the USSR, or C, Greece?
Fuck's sake.
Okay, so that's A, England, B, the USSR, or C, Greece.
God, phone a friend.
No, I'm at to change me thing here. Go on.
Oh no, you're going away from your gut instinct.
Yeah, I am, and I'm gonna get it wrong. I know I am.
Right, question number 4.
Yeah.
The Republic of Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
the UAE, and which other country made its World Cup debut? Italia 90. Was it A, Cameroon, B, Egypt, or C, Costa Rica? Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to be any Italian there.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice and quick because you can't be Googling them then.
Yeah, exactly. Number 5, the back pass rule was changed in 1992, largely due to Italia 90.
Mm-hmm.
But what else changed ahead of the USA 94 World Cup? Was it the introduction of golden goal? A, the introduction of golden goal in extra time.
Mm-hmm.
B, 3 points for a win in the groups. Or C, only 2 qualifiers per group into the knockout round. Okay, so question number 6. Which and this isn't multiple. We're away from multiple choice now, yeah. So we're gonna have to start thinking a little bit.
And Ray Dicko's turned into a prick now. Come
on. Right. Which 2 European countries came third in their respective groups but failed to qualify for the knockout round?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Jesus.
Now we did discuss one of them on the podcast. I don't remember discussing the other one, to be honest.
So what was that, Ray? European countries or world?
Yeah, the two. There was two countries. They just happened to be European.
Yeah.
2 countries came third, but they failed to qualify. So there was 8 groups. The six of the third place teams went through, and 2 missed out, and they happened to be European countries. Which 2 countries were they?
Jeez, that's a hard question.
Right. Okay. Number 7. This might be an easier question. What is the national broadcaster in Italy?
Oh.
Don't start shouting it out.
The national broadcaster in Italy.
Yeah. So obviously we've got RT here and the BBC in the UK. So what's the national broadcaster in Italy?
I'm making this up. Go on.
Question number 8. And
I hope it's beIN Sports. Go on.
Apologies for the pronunciation here, but Edgardo Codesal refereed the final. But what country was he from? Edgardo, 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 Edgardo Codesal, Codesal, refereed the final. But what country was he from?
Was that Edgardo or Eduardo?
Edgardo.
Codesal. Okay.
No.
Question number 9. Which ex-Liverpool player scored in the shootout for West Germany against England in the semi-final?
This is a lot of bollocks.
Yes, have that one.
Yeah, it's only one of them in the squad.
Which ex-Liverpool player scored in the shootout for West Germany against England in the semi-final?
Can I ask, was he a Liverpool player before this or after?
After.
There's a clue. He wasn't a Liverpool player at the time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And the last question number 10. Now, there's 5 points available here.
5? And is there only 1 point available for the rest of them?
A point for the rest of them, except that question around the two countries which are in their group.
Which is 2 points.
Yeah, 2 points for that. This is 5, and this should play to the strengths of all Irish listeners.
Right.
Okay. Name each of the island penalty scorers in the shootout against Romania.
Okay.
So 5 penalty takers, all 5 successful.
You have to put a time limit on this.
Give you another.
I'm done.
Give you another.
I have 4 of them.
I'm done.
15 seconds.
Let me see.
No, you have to be extremely honest here with you.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on, I'm not done. Hold on.
How long do you want? We can't stay. We're not here till Tuesday.
Do you need any repeats, or have you got your?
Yeah.
I prefer the multiple choice ones. I'm not going to lie.
I'll be back in 1 minute. My answers are done though, right?
Okay.
Oh, fuck's sake.
I've got 4. I can't get the other one.
I got 4, and I'm not having a guess on the 5th.
4 out of 5, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, the multiple choice ones were a bit easier.
I was doing plenty of. I was going all multiple choice, and then I thought, no, that would be a little bit too easy.
Right. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Gav has the face of a man who went and Googled a load of shit there.
No, I went to Jack's. I left my phone beside the laptop when I left as well. I wouldn't do that. I have all my answers in.
Right. Okay. So the first question: how many goals were scored during that particular World Cup? Your options were A 95, B 105, and C 115. The correct answer is C 150.
I had 95.
I went for B.
I got C. Woohoo!
Now, hold on. How do you know we got C? You're gonna have to call out your answers before.
Yeah, you have to have your answers wrote down. Show your walk-ins. Yeah.
No, but I tell you what. No, let us call out your answers to you, Ray, and you can mark the scores as we go along.
Okay. Yeah, you can put a G or a C. All right. Yeah. There you go. That's easier.
Right, now I've got to go and get a pen. Hang on, let me get a pen. For
fuck's sake, right?
We're 2 hours into this podcast.
Yeah, but you know, it's magic. You don't interrupt magic like this.
There's nothing better to do, is there? Let's face it. You know?
And Phil faded. How about that?
Yeah, Phil faded badly there, but Phil's still going in the office, so there you go. Right.
I'm heading out to watch 1990 videos after this, genuinely.
Despite being banned from travelling. Right, okay. So, question number 2. So, based on that, Gar has got 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, question number 2. At the time, I had the most red cards. How many? Right. So, what were your answers, lads?
18.
16.
So 2 16s and an 18. Yeah. Okay. The correct answer is A 16.
Ah, for fuck's sake.
So that's a point for Keith and Gar.
I thought they were all mad bastards in this World Cup. They weren't, obviously. There was probably 64 games. It's only one every 4
games. It was only played in 24 teams in the fucking thing.
Right, question number 3. Which other country got to the last 2 for hosting the World Cup? Answers?
I said USSR.
Okay.
I said USSR.
USSR, and it's right.
You all said USSR, and you're all right.
Lovely, because I changed that from England.
England and Greece were the other 2 that went for it, and they dropped out.
Oh, Dicko, you sneaky fuck.
They did drop out. Right. Republic of Ireland, UAE, and which other country made a debut? What have you got, lads?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica?
Yeah.
And you're all right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. This is why I went off the multiple choice, because I knew you were capable of doing some educated guesses. Right. The back pass rule was changed in 92. What else had changed for USA? 94. What had you gone for?
I went with 3 points for the win.
I went with 2 qualifiers.
Well.
What did Gar 2 qualifiers? What did you go for, Keith?
3 points.
The
I wasn't sure on this one.
The correct answer is B, 3 points for a win.
Yeah.
Certainly is. I think Phil made reference to it, nearly blew it all wide apart at the end of the podcast.
I also see the 2 qualifiers, so that's why I went on.
Yeah.
Right. Which 2 European countries came third in their respective groups and failed to qualify in the knockout round?
I had Austria and Scotland.
Austria and Scotland. We spoke about Scotland a lot, so.
I went for Russia and Austria.
Russia and Austria. Austria and Scotland. Okay, right. The correct answer is Scotland and Austria.
Right, so he gets 1 point and me and Gar get 2.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No problems.
Okay. It's nip and tuck. Right, who is the national broadcaster in Italy?
I said Italia. I think they're
They're cycling team, aren't they?
I don't know what they are.
Whatever. RTM.
I think that's the ski gear now a little.
Who did you go for, Keith?
RTM.
Gar?
Is it radio or AOI it goes?
It is RAI.
RAI is the correct answer.
Only from me Rome trips. It's the only channel you get on the bleeding TV over there.
Absolute Google merchants, fucking.
Go on, mad, yeah.
You snapping here, I am.
Right, the referee.
Fucking Alitalia. Fuck off, Gaff.
Edgardo Codesal. Any guesses on the country which he's from?
Hungary.
I said Cyprus.
I said South America. I had Mexico written, but I scribbled it out and typed Ecuador.
Ecuador. Okay. The correct answer is Mexico.
Fuck.
Ah, hate that. Hate that. Snapping.
Scribbled out, look.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Shocker. Absolute shocker. Right. Question number 9. Which ex-Liverpool player scored in the shootout for West Germany versus England in the semi-final? The answer, lads?
Riedler.
You've all got Karl-Heinz Riedler. That is correct. Yeah.
Fucking only one I've got since the multiple choice went away.
Right. And the last question, right? This is for your 5-point bonanza. Name each of the Ireland penalty scorers. Right. What I'll do here, right? If you give me them in the correct order.
I will.
Fuck off, will you?
Yeah, I'll give you a bonus point.
Right, I go first.
Yeah, go on.
I'll tell you what, right? So we all call out the first one. Ready?
Yeah.
Sheedy was the first one.
Sheedy.
Yeah.
Second, Houghton.
Okay.
No, I had Townsend.
No, I think Houghton went earlier.
Yeah, I had
Townsend was later.
I had Townsend third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lads.
Townsend third, yeah.
Cascarino fourth.
Yeah. Poxy penalty.
And then O'Leary. Yeah.
And then what? O'Leary?
O'Leary.
Okay. Did you all get that in terms of all five?
I have Sheedy, Houghton, Townsend, Cascarino, O'Leary.
Okay, and who do you have, Keith?
I have Sheedy, Houghton, Townsend, Cascarino, O'Leary.
Okay, and what do you have, Gar?
I've got Sheedy, Townsend, Houghton, Cass, and O'Leary.
Okay, so Gar, you got them mixed up. The other two lads got all of them right, and they got them in the right order.
So we get 6 points.
6 points
each. And what does he get? Nothing, because he got them wrong.
No.
He got 5.
He gets 5.
He got 4. He gets 4. He only got 4 of them right.
Got the order
got the 5 scorers.
The order wrong.
wrong order.
Yeah, that's
right?
not a bollocks. You have to get them in the right order. You can't just start shouting names random.
7, 8. Right, okay.
There has to be a draw here.
8, 4, 5.
Not for me, it's not. Laying Paddy last.
Okay, 8, 4, 5, 8. Right, okay. It isn't a tie. There is an outright winner.
Fuck, it's Garner.
Yeah.
We got 13.
The two lads, Keith and Gav, got 12 points, but it is Gar on 13 points.
Yeah, and he picks the fucking penalty takes in the wrong order. Fuck off.
Whoa! Imagine you had got them in the right order.
Come here, show us your page there for a second. Pick your page up there.
To be fair, he did say Mexico and scrubbed it out for the referee as well.
Where's Austria written on that?
There's Oz, look.
Oz, that's a fucking flight number, A151 he has written down. What was the tiebreaker? Just a matter of interest.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask it anyway, lads. Why not? Right, the tiebreaker was, and you can all have a stab. We'll let Gar go first.
Yeah.
And then you lads can then chip in after it. So, to the nearest 1,000, and I'm going to round it up. Okay. To the nearest 1,000. What was the attendance for the World Cup final in Stadio Olimpico in Rome? To the nearest 1,000.
Right, Gar, go first.
Go first.
Look at him Googling it.
I'll go 62,000.
62,000.
Way more than that.
62,000. I'll let Gav go second.
I'm going to go with 81,000.
81,000. Okay. And
This
Keith?
will say 82, look.
I have 82 wrote down.
You do your hole.
I do.
It does as well, look. Jesus Christ.
So, I got 82.
Okay, 82.
If it's 62,000, you should knock football in the head.
At 62, yeah?
Yeah.
I've been in the stadium. It's not that big.
Yeah, but this was 30 years ago. They were squeezing them in.
Right, I'm gonna. I said I would round it up because this is quite close. Okay,
Yeah.
I said I would round it up.
Yeah.
Keith is out of the equation with his 82,000. Okay, so it actually lands somewhere between 62,000 and 81,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so the actual attendance, and I'm going to round it up. The actual attendance was 73,603,
That means
which I will round up to 74, which means, Gav, you were the closest with 81.
Yes, I did. That means I'm the winner overall. It was 5 points for that, wasn't it?
So, look, if it would have gone to a tie, you would have won. You might have won a Premier League trophy, a bit like Liverpool.
74,000 though, 73,000.
Yeah, 73,603. Yeah.
Jesus.
That was way more.
Seems paltry, really, doesn't it?
That's mad. And lads, that stadium is not big at all.
Yeah, I'm wondering, did he do something to it?
Full
though,
of Italians. Only Italians that bought the tickets for the final, you see. It was full of Italians.
Yeah. It's a mad one. Right, okay, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Hopefully, the listeners can playing along anyway. So, look, we'll be back next week. We'll try and come up with something creative to get you through these boring times, troubled times.
2011 next week.
The 1954 World Cup next week.
Oh, geez, I have to do a certain amount of research for that. Look, it is the club. It's Ray. It's Gav, it's Keith, it's Gar, it was Phil, but he's gone to bed, or maybe he's just gone to watch a bit more TV. But we'll be back next week. Over and out.